talk to you 2 minutes? What do you think about today?
The weather looks nice, and it would be a nice race for the final day. Racing for the third place with Didier.
And do you have a specific strategy?
Difficult to say. Be fast.
Sounds like a very good strategy. See you this evening
Thank you. See you.
for the podium. Hi, Graham. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you.
What do you think about today's race?
Today's race, well, I think it'll be a little more difficult than the last few days. It's going to be very blue, not as much wind, so we won't be able to rely on the ridges. So we'll have to find little blue thermals here and there to keep us up. Should be fun, but a little bit tricky probably.
And do you have a specific strategy for today?
Well, I want to get in the points, so I'm torn. I think the safest way would be to take every climb high, but you can't rely on these guys to be slow, so I might have to push hard, but that's risky in that you get low and then you go slow. So I don't know. I'll probably try and push a bit.
We will follow you.
Thank you.
Mike, could you tell us a bit about today's race?
Today's race, well, the weather looks a bit more Sedania-like, a little bit more classic, less wind than we've had over the past few days. And so I think it'll be important to find the good thermals and not rely on the ridge lift, which might be not so good today. I think there's a couple of key decisions during the race. One will be the route back from the final turn, where you've got an option of going to the north, which is the more direct route, or going further to the south and following the line of the mountains, which is a little bit lower and perhaps a little bit less risky, but maybe slower. So who knows? We'll find out at the end of the day which route people used and which route was the fastest. So let's hope we have a fun race.
Thank you. We will follow which route you are taking.
Hello everybody and welcome to La Cerdanya Valley. Welcome to the last day of the Sailplane Grand Prix finals here in La Cerdanya in Catalonia, Spanish Pyrenees. It's a pleasure to be here another day. Fantastic week, fantastic championship. And well, first of all, let's take a look at the results of yesterday's race. It was race 5, day 6. We must remember that 2 days ago there was rain, so it was a rest day for everybody. I think most of the pilots were happy with that. And the results of yesterday's race 5 are as it follows. In third position, Didier House, who got 7 points. In second position, Sebastian Kawa with his GS3 got 8 points. And the winner of yesterday, Tilo Holyhouse, who has made 3 wins in a row with his Ventus 3T, got 10 points. And well, interesting thing, sad thing is John Gatfield was making another time an incredible flight, fantastic. But in the last turn point, climbing at Helmut, he didn't manage to touch the waypoint, and that's why he's at the rear of the yesterday's classification. And in the overall, these are the positions. Third place, Didier House with 23 points. In second position, with 2 daily wins, is Sebastian Kawa with his GS3 with 33 points. And at this moment, the leader of the championship is Tilo House with his Ventus 3T with 41 points. So, today is the decisive race, the day when all the positions will be defined clearly. And the most important thing is between the third and the second, it's a difference of 10 points, and between the second and first is 8 points. We'll talk a little bit later about this, but by the moment we welcome Brian Sprelly. Hello, Brian. So, how does the weather look like today?
Good afternoon, German. We have good conditions. We have nice weather. The conditions for flying are going to be good, but very little cumulus, almost completely blue. and we have a very small amount of cumulus on the top of the mountains to the north of Sardinia. The task leg for the first part of the race, which goes to the east, there is a little bit of cumulus there. We have a southwesterly wind. It's quite a good wind. It's not really strong, but it's good, which means the ridges will work. And so when they take that turning point, they will be able to fly on the ridges and in the cumulus for the rest of the flight. The south turning point at Beaumont, we expect that to be completely blue with no cumulus at all.
Yes, well, and with the task of today, it will be interesting because we've been taking a look of what the pilots are doing, waiting for the start line to open, the first pilots to launch, and we could see right now Charlie, which is Christoph Limper from Germany, and Golf Oscar Lima, Adam Zelaski from Poland. You can see they are investigating the southern part, the Kali Mountains, and well, they are going high. Okay, it's the alternative route, just in case someone wants to make a different decision from the main group, to take a different route to turn to prove something different. Okay, it will be a day very interesting in the whole. As we must remember, there is a difference of 8 points from the second Sebastian Kawa to the first Tilo Holy House, and today it's a little difference with the other days, with the past days, which is the other days the first had 10 points, but today there's a bonus extra point, so the first got 11 points and the second 8 points, and that's very important because then we'll take a look at how Tilo and Sebastian and Didier and some other pilots could stay on the overall classification depending on their results.
That's interesting, and we can see that the majority of competitors stayed on the top of the massif there and climbing to a good altitude, and it looks like they're all in thermal still. The Graham Parker's got really high, but most people around 3,000 meters. And we can see that Sebastian and Tilo are in there with the main group, so it looks like they're all going to be climbing up together. Tilo's a little bit lower. Maybe he's been out investigating something already, but Sebastian's in with the main gaggle in the thermal there. Yes,
the thing is, as most of the days before, usually the cloud base is about 200 meters better than expected every day, so it's good. It's always good to have better real weather than the forecast. And today was expected around about 3,000 meters, 3,100. But I think it's so dry that maybe most of them are turning in blue thermals.
Yeah, there's not much cumulus. There's a little bit on top of the Pedro mountain where they are now. But I expect most of the flight to be done in blue conditions. We had cumulus earlier, but as the cloud base went up, so it got drier, and as it got drier, the cumulus disappeared, and now we have just tiny bits of cumulus. And actually, those little bits of cumulus are probably marking the wave more than they're marking the thermals.
Yes, take a look at your screen right now. Thank you to our telescope team. We'll talk about them a little bit later. And you can see the images in the Kali Mountains, northeast of the airfield, and you can see cumulus, and you can see a main thermal. You can see a thermal under the cumulus in the top of your screen. That's a group of about 8 to 10 gliders. The main part of the pilots are there, and you can see there are not many clouds. Yesterday we started the day with about 80% of cloud cover that quickly dried to arrive maybe 10-20%. Was for us it was a good change because we were a little bit concerned about what would happen with not much sun on the ground, Brian.
Yeah, and as I was saying before, we can see from the cumulus that you're looking at over Pedro now that above the inversion level there will probably be a little bit of wave, and that wave may be useful, but they have two problems with the wave. If you climb up in the wave, you then have a stronger headwind if you're going to the west, but they also have a height limit of 4,000 meters, so they can't climb very high. And in this sort of situation, it can take quite a long time to find the wave, to get into the wave, so you get a good altitude. So I don't think the wave will be really usable. It's more likely that they spend the whole flight in thermals up to about 3,200 meters, something of that sort.
Yes, I think so. I think just in case they want to use the thermal, they would have to spend many minutes looking for it, climbing and taking profit of it. I don't think so. And the interesting thing is we have two pilots keep on flying in the south. And Crystal Limper one day already proved that route. We'll see what it happens. The thing is we only have 9 minutes left for a start line. And in just a few seconds, we want to show you what we've been talking about, all these days of telescope images. And we must say it's an invention of our friend and great pilot, many times Spain Lightning Championship, Jorge Arias, helped by Joan Fresno, Felix Fresnedo, Luigi Semeraro, Josep Maria Camps. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. It was something first time in the world, and we could see a lapse of our drone of Gerard. Look at the incredible landscape, the incredible views they have. Okay, although we're really cold 2 days, and that's the tower where they are. Okay. Well, really, it's the last images of this drone because this drone died a few minutes later after crashing with a pine. And in front of you, you can see the ski stations of La Molina and Masella. That's the tower where they have the telescope and the camera. And well, now you know them. It's Jorge Arias, the left of your screen, and John Fresno to the right. Very nice views and a time lapse of how every day they do that. But this is this morning, so take a look. You can see the evolution of the clouds and how it's getting, how it's moving. And every day, what they have to do with the van, take all the things to the airdrome, taking back, charging batteries. So thank you very much. Thank you for passing cold and eating whatever you can. Thank you, boys.
Yeah,
great work.
And they sent us some remarkable pictures, not only of the conditions that we can see, but also they've been picking up gliders from a long way away so that they can monitor them through final glide. And I don't know if you already mentioned this, Jaume, but they are able to lock onto a glider using the GPS position.
Yes, thank you.
And the telescope follows it automatically.
Yes, it's very important because you can use that moving by hand, or Jorge made a great job. He's having the signal with the system of Angel Casado, tracking all the flarms and data of the gliders, and they can focus on one and follow him around the valley. Very nice. And there is a place where they can follow a glider from maybe 40 kilometers to the east and to 30 to the west. And great work. Okay, Jorge has been working until 2 or 3 in the morning each day at my home. So thank you very much, man.
And we can see in this view now that they're getting ready. They're getting in a position to start. They'll want to be max altitude. The maximum start height is 2,600 meters, and they will be to the west of the start line. Coming down to that altitude, they'll try to have a nice long run in. They have the wind behind them, so the ground speed maximum for the start is 170 kilometers an hour. So they will have to fly at about 140 kilometers an hour to allow for the wind behind them. And they will move out to the west. They're all high enough now to wait, and then they'll take a run into the start line, trying to time it so they arrive just at the start line at the right speed, at the right height.
Yes, by the way, they are clearly higher than the start line. We must remember that today task, the start altitude maximum is 2,600 meters. It's a task of 262 kilometers, and the whole championship in the task area maximum altitude is 4,000 meters. We could see now 7-0 Graham Parker with almost 300, 900 meters, so very close to that limit. But they must go down. They must arrive to 2,600 meters. And in the meanwhile, we want to say hello to everybody who's looking at us, and especially to our friends of Bicester Gliding Club, to our friends of the Glider RC of Igualada, Grevenborg from Deutschland, our friends of United Kingdom, Paris, Hanover, and the club of Celje, Slovenia. Thank you for following us, man. And meanwhile, we have here Sergi Pujol, Chief Manager, eating an ice cream. So, Sergi, what do you think of today?
Hello. Well, we have a really good thermals. Some pilots they are really high, 3.3, 3.4. Aldo it's at 3.4. And we can see that we have some small clouds or cumulus. We have wind from the southeast, quite strong in altitude. And we have stability in altitude. Maybe we can find some places with wave, not really good wave because the thermal broke the wave. But the prevision for the forecast say that the thermals it will be at 3,029, and we can see some gliders high. The task area looks really good for the forecast. Just we will see what happened with the point 3. That it's Beaumont, because the thermal looks that it's a little lower there.
Yes, Sergi. And well, we must say that the first leg is going from Jer, who is just at the north of the airfield. Meanwhile, we are so happy to see. You can see clearly in the Puig Pedro zone, Sergi. We can see some gliders circling under the few cumulus left behind. As we said, the most important thing today is the strong wind of yesterday disappeared, and it's from today in the morning is getting drier and drier. Only few wisps and clouds, Sergi. Is that okay?
Yeah, the forecast say that not clouds, but we can see some clouds during all morning. And in the south, we will see what happens because we have clouds for the first point. We have some clouds in the south and not in the north already. And we will see what is the line that the pilots took. If the south or the north, we will see.
Thank you, Sergi. And meanwhile, our friend Benjamin has put us, while we see, will be the first leg from the start line. You can see the green line in the middle of the screen. They are going east to first point, which is Aeroclub Cerdanya, in the mountain of Camberdas. It's a leg of about 24 kilometers. And the thing is, this mountain has a height of 2,700 meters with a radius of 2 kilometers. So they start lower than this altitude, but the thing is a radius of 2. So if they don't want, they don't have to climb to touch because they can touch before.
Yeah, but all these mountains around here, it's a little higher. All they have arrived. They have to arrive with some altitude.
Yes, I think they will climb anyway before. And before the rest day, we could see many pilots with when the first point was almost here. Sorry, was already here, and they could climb in many ridges you can see oriented to the west. And from there they have a second leg to second point, which is Audiovisual in Cometa Mountain. It's a leg of 90 kilometers. It's the longest leg of today's race. Okay, that could take them through the northern part of the Pyrenees, although there is a little chance of somebody tries the southern route. I think Brian and me said no, but we will see what happens. What do you think, Sergi?
Boy,
could anybody take that route?
The north route?
The southern route
Not
through Cadiz?
I don't believe, but we will see. Maybe we can find some rotors in the north part of the Cadiz and some pilot choose this way. But I think the most pilots take the north, not the south.
Okay, from there they have third leg to Beaumont, 23 kilometers. Then they go back to the East Maniga, which is North Maniga, another mountain of 2,400 meters. Then they go left to Montlouis, that pretty village, French village with a castle, 65 kilometers. And from there, 25 to our airfield. It's just less than 1 minute left to start line. So everybody be ready to see how how they cross the start line. We'll see where they are going, which turn they take, which route. Meanwhile, we want to say hello to our friends of Texas, USA, and Poland. Thank you, everybody. I've been flying in Nostro and Lice Conte. I remember you. Hello, everybody. And Zero, Brian, ready to start.
So here we go. They're running in now, and we can see that Sebastian and Luca are flying together off to the south end of the line, and everybody else seems to be picking up pretty much the same line. We expect them to take a run down the south side of the valley and follow the quite substantial ridges that run along there, but they won't be orientated for ridge lift. They'll only be orientated for thermal lift as the wind comes down the valley and goes up the ridges. It looks like Sebastian's through first, and as we can see, we know that Sebastian has to win the day, so he's got it all to do today.
Yes, they are crossing the start line. Remember, the first leg is 24 kilometers. And as we said, one of the most interesting things, apart of course, who's winning the race, is what will happen with the two leading pilots, which are Thilo Hollinghaus from Germany with his Ventus 3 Victor, and Sebastian Kawa with his GH3, which is Juliet Sierra 3. Okay, it's a difference of 8 points, and we'll talk about later about the possible positions of what could happen. Okay. And meanwhile, we could see some real images of the gliders. Take a look. They are cruising to the first turn point. Nice view. You can see there are almost 10 gliders. They are cruising about 170, 200 kilometers with some tailwind, Brian.
Yeah, and they're going straight for the southern run. They're going straight for the run to the south of the valley, and they'll run along the top of those mountains all the way up to that turning point. They should stop to climb. They'll need to climb at some stage on this first leg. Of course, in this competition, it's an individual competition. Everybody should fly together. Everybody must fly their own flight. There's no team flying, and there's no cooperation between the teams. But we have a good history of good sportsmanship in this type of racing. Yes. Where people still cooperate, but they do it looking at each other and working out where the other guy is.
Yes, we can see clearly that most of the pilots took the southern route. They started at the right side of the start line, the southern one, going to Quéchans, Ridges, and Puigmal. Only Louis Bouderlic's Fox Quebec, who's flying a GS3, and Fox Mike, who is Maximilian with another GS3, they're only two pilots who went to the northern part. And taking a look at the start, from the top, I don't know if Louis took the start. We will see later. It was pretty close. And well, I think they stopped gliding. Okay, they are there circling. Take a look, fantastic view. There are almost 50 of them gliding and climbing. It's nice view, Brian.
Yeah, they're Hockey is doing a great job, and we can see the gaggle climbing up. Not much will happen in this first few minutes, except for Max and Louis, who've decided to go quite a different route. We'll see how this works out for them. It's a big gamble to go quite a different route at this stage. I would have thought the obvious way is to go to the south, but if they've seen something, they've probably worked something out and decided that if they're going to do really well today, maybe they need to do something different right from the start.
Yes, in fact, no, they are the highest one, the one that took the northern route, although I think they stopped to climb before them. So the thing is, when they join together, arriving to first point, which is Aeroclub La Cerdanya, situated in Camberdas. We must remember Camberdas is 2,700 meters. So we said when they join together, we'll see who is the higher one. Okay, and the
question really is, when will the big group that's moving to the right stop to climb? If we look down at the top of them in a moment, we'll see what they're doing. And I think they're beginning to climb now. I think if we look down, we'll see they stop to climb. and we can see that they are at 2,400, 2,500 meters. Louis, in the meantime, and Max have climbed up to nearly 3,000 meters. So maybe it'll turn out okay for them. Maybe they'll come into that first turning point higher.
Yes, and the interesting thing is taking a look at the group in real images. You can see I think it's the place of the valley, Brian, that is cloudy. It's the more cloud than the other part.
Yeah, they've got these are the best cumulus that we can see in the area.
To the north, we could see before looking at Puig Pedros and Carlit, there were only a few wisps dissipating, and here more cloud and maybe thermal before, better, sorry. And meanwhile, we could see some gliders making pull-ups in the thermal zones, in the rising up zones. Okay.
Well, we can see Maximilian and Louis that it's climbing really well and in the middle of the valley. Sometimes when we have wind in the south-north wind, we have small lines of energy in the middle of the valley, and maybe the Louis and Max have seen small wispies, and it's afraid that he take this way. The good thing, if it works, when he will come back to the north, he will know exactly where he has to go and where he have to go. And the south looks like really good, but we will see what happens. Who arrive better at the Cambridge point?
Yes, now just a few seconds before, when we saw the gliders thermaling, we saw Tilo coming from the bottom of your screen. So Tilo was not with the main group, was not with Sebastian Kawa. We must remember, and we'll do it a couple of times in the whole broadcasting, there's a difference of 8 points in 41, who has the leader one. And now there is not a very big difference of altitude. Sebastian has 2,500, meanwhile Holly has only difference of 30 meters. The big question we're talking with Brian is Tilo going to mark to be pretty close of Sebastian, or will he, as all of the races before, do its own way, doing his flight? What do you say, Sergi?
I'm sorry.
It's okay. Well, the thing is, if they will fly together, or Tilo will do its own way. Okay. Meanwhile, we can see the Louis Bouderlic and Maximilian Saiz already left thermal. They are going to the first point. They are about both 10 kilometers from the first waypoint. They will join together.
I think it will be best the
north, yes.
No, the north, Bouderlic and Max.
And Max, yes.
Sorry.
We must remember both of them are flying GS3, okay. And meanwhile, the leaders, Tilo Hollyhouse is flying Ventus 3T, done by his factory, and Sebastian Kawa is flying GS3, and well, they are flying so well every day. Are clearly the leaders, and well.
They are 200 meters higher than the others. The others have the reach, but the wind here it should be from the right of his position, of his view. That means that maybe he have some downwind or something like this. We will see what happens.
Okay, I think Maximilian and Louis will arrive first to the point of Aeroclub La Cerdanya in Cambredas mountain, but the group, I think. If they arrive later, I don't think it's because they are slower, but they will stop because they have more reaches, more places, and more clouds.
Yeah, exactly. It's a 2-4. It's not bad. He are thinking what they have to do for come back. He keep the altitude because the pilots know that the first point is quite high.
Yes, 2,700.
And he have to arrive with enough altitude. Thinking maybe he wants to go for the north. He have to take altitude for arrive the mountains in the north. And
thank you, Benjamin. We can see now a comparison between one pilot of each group. In the left part of your screen, at the bottom is Louis Bouderlic with Maximilian, and to the south is Pete Temple coming from the south with the main group. By the way, Sebastian is a little bit in front of Tilo. I don't see Tilo. I think he will arrive to the screen in just a second, Brian.
Yeah, we've seen on the previous days in this competition them opening out quite quickly on the first leg, and it's beginning to look like the same thing will happen today. They've got a good altitude, and Mike's determined to have a good day today. He's had a couple of not so good days, and he will push on, and of course that's an advantage for Sebastian because he has in front of him 3 really good pilots now, and that'll be very helpful. But equally the group behind with Thilo, they have some good pilots and they pull together. I don't expect that there'll be much of a split at this turning point. I think once they're around the turning point, they're going to run back along the same side, the south side of the valley, and the big decision is when to cross over and where to cross over.
Will they keep on going over Cadi Mountains, which is 95% blue, or will they jump the valley through the middle?
Yeah, you quite like that Cadi Mountain route, don't you, Jeremy? I can't imagine they will. I can only imagine with the lack of cumulus that they're going to come back onto the plantation, come onto Caravaca, and they're going to set off to the north.
Okay, they stopped climbing. They have stopped in the ridge just close to the point of Aero Club Cerdanya, and I think they are climbing pretty well. They joined there.
Yeah, they've joined up now just before the turning point. So it looks like Louis and Max did quite a good job there. They went off to the side. They pulled back okay. And it seems their strategy certainly didn't cost them anything, and it might have turned out to be okay. But they're the same height as Mike now, and we can see that Sebastian's just 100 meters higher.
Yes, we'll see which altitude is the cloud base there. Okay. Meanwhile, the left part of the main group is arriving from the bottom of your screen. They seem to stop in another thermal before. We'll see which thermal is the better.
And Thilo's certainly taking his time today. He's high. He's very high, and he's probably, for the first time in a long time, we've seen Thilo fly tactically. He's probably going to avoid getting out in front and avoid pushing on. But what will be great fun to watch is at which point he decides he needs to start catching up, because he needs to get some points.
Yes.
If Sebastian wins, he can beat Thilo, so Thilo needs to be in the points. So he can't afford to be too conservative in this race.
And now, thank you, Benjamin. We can see both thermals, 2 groups. How are they climbing in each one? Okay, and 4 pilots of the left thermal left the thermal and went to the leading one. They are joining. There are only 5 gliders left. One is Thilo, the other is Mike Delta and IGC, the 2 Russian pilots, also with Thomas Gordner. We said Thomas yesterday, unfortunately, had landing with gear into the glider. Some scratching, but nothing serious, I think, Brian.
No, it was okay. And we're now seeing that I would have expected Thilo to go on to the next group with Golf Tango, but they're not. They're taking the maximum altitude. Maybe he just wants to keep a good view. Really good altitude here. Louis up at 3,200, and this is probably the best part of the valley.
Yes, and is the place where there are more clouds, more easy to look for, to find the thermals. And now we can see the rest of the pilots leaving the western thermal to join the main group.
And they're going to run in now. Everybody will leave the climb and run into the turn and out and back to the same climb. They're going to come back pretty much the same way, I suspect. And we'll look down on the turning point in a moment, so we can just see them rounding the turning point here.
Yes, they are climbing. Oh, look at the altitude.
Didier has he gone through the zone? Yes, they're climbing into the zone. Of course, this is really good tactic because this is the furthest downwind point, and if they can be really high here, then they got a really good run back into wind on the next leg.
Yes, this is a usual tactical movement. You always say that when you have tailwind, it's always good to climb as high as you can because the wind will move you, put you closer to the waypoint. Meanwhile, arriving to a point upwind is better to take it low, so when you climb, the wind does not take away from them.
And we're seeing now a couple of guys, Louis and Aldo, decided to go off more to the north. So there is a little bit of a split here. It's a big decision, this, because
Yes.
it's quite a long way off track to take. They've got to come all the way to the Carlite mountain to make any real benefit from it. And most people, my money is on the people heading straight back down the track, even climbing again if they come back in the call.
I think they are moving away. They are separating into groups, and we must say by the moment that the point where there are Cambrdas is already in the French part of Pyrenees, and it's a very nice place, very touristic, with 2 hot springs and of Jo and Dorres, and nice Nordic ski stations. So now, thank you, Benjamin. You have a view from the waypoint they just touched to the second waypoint. The valley is in the middle. Take a look at the green valley, and in the left of your screen is Cadi Mountains, and to the right is the Northern Mountains. So, yes, thank you, Benjamin. There are 2 possible routes. Cadi, yes, and to the north are the main Pyrenees, and we will see. It's very curious. We said we think nobody takes that route, but they are taking. Maybe because it's cloudy than the northern one. Sergi, what do you think?
I think we can show now the Carlite Mountain with the telescope. That it's Louis Buderlic and Aldo take this direction because I think he has seen the clouds. I think it's a good decision. We will see what happens because it's the other ones have to cross the valley for the south, and he have a really good way. It's the place where the valley it's more high.
Yes.
And we will lose. We will see what happens, but the Carlite looks really good. And if Louis Buderlic and Aldo arrive with enough altitude, Didier, I'm sorry, he's taking the same way now, and Christophe Limper too, and he arrived with enough altitude. The problem of this mountain is that in the top of the mountain you have a plateau that
Yes.
it's quite high, and you have to arrive with enough altitude to take the ridge, and later he will find a really good lift.
So the group that definitely has chosen the northern route is Louis Buderlic and Didier Haus from France, Aldo Rodriguez from Spain, and Christoph Limper from Germany. And in the south group, where there are 15 of the gliders, the thing is there a little difference between the 2 leaders, GS3 Sebastian Kawa and 3 Victor Thilo Holyhouse. I think it's a difference of about, the same altitude, but a difference of about 3 kilometers. But we must remember, winning Sebastian and Thilo being second, it's not enough for Sebastian to win the championship, Brian.
No, he's not. He's got to win, and Thilo's got to be down at I think no points or 1 point.
Sorry?
And Thilo, if he gets 1 point, he's winning. Or no, 2 or 3.
no.
He needs 3 points.
Yes.
So if Sebastian wins today. So, but they're going to stay together. We expected this pretty much to be what would happen. They'll stay together most of the way back along this side of the valley until they come to the point where they think they should jump across.
Yes. Different possibilities here, as Brian said. If Sebastian wins, he will have 44 points, and Thilo is 6, he'll have 45. Thilo will win. Just in case Thilo is 7, they have the same points, 44. And Sebastian would win because of the overall.
The number of days. There's
Yes.
a tie break on the
Yes.
number of days
Yes.
that you won and the positions.
Okay.
But that's a long way away yet. They've got another 200 kilometers to fly, and there's lots going to happen between now and 5 o'clock when we expect them to come back. Or actually probably about 4:30, I think, now.
Yes. And the thing is, Sebastian must win. If,
Yeah, he needs to
there's
win.
a chance,
Yeah.
no chance.
And that's what Sebastian will enjoy that.
Yes,
He'll
yes.
enjoy the challenge, he'll enjoy proving it, and he'll enjoy being out in front.
Yes, and just in case Sebastian is second and Thilo has no point, both they have 41 points, but Thilo would win because he have more victories,
Yeah.
more day victories. Okay?
That's
more
how it
daily
works.
daily
Yeah.
wins.
That's how it works on the tiebreak. So will Louis and Didier pull it off? We saw that Louis and Max went one way together as if they had a plan, but now they're split. So that whatever plan they had doesn't seem to have passed the first contact with the turning point.
Yes.
And they're going to try quite different ways. So maybe now we can see whether Louis is going to get the climb first, because he could choose from here to go right over the top if he gets to climb. Sebastian and the other guys, when they cross, they will probably have to climb somewhere on Pedro, which is where they were climbing before the start.
Okay, and now take a look in the right part of your screen at the top. You can see the group of Louis Buderlik, Aldo, and Didier, and also Christophe. And take a look at the real life of our telescope. That's where they are going. You can see a little line of energy of clouds. Thank you, Gerard.
Yeah, and Gilles is sort of can't make his mind up. He's in the middle here. He's not sure whether he should be going on the left route or the right route, Gilles and Pete's Temple. It looks to me like they've broken off the south line earlier, and they're going to try and glide across to find the climb that will be on the southeast corner of Pedro, and they're probably going to meet up again with Louis and Co. Unless Louis and Didier pick something off the corner of the Puy-Moron Valley, near to, what's the, La Tour de Carol.
Yes, I think, can you see the southern group? They are leaving, they are going west, also to the north, so maybe they just used the clouds there were, and maybe from there on in Cadi Mountains is blue. That's why maybe they're now there, or are turning north. They will join with the group that just after touching the waypoint, they chose the northern route. Here they go. We will see who arrive higher, the northern group or the southern route.
Yeah, Thomas has climbed right up at the back there. Thomas has not been having a very good competition so far. He's had a couple of days which are below what he would expect. And we have a very interesting situation today because at least 3 or 4 of these guys would have expected to have had a much better day than any of the days they've had. People like Mike and Louis will have expected to have been in the top 1 or 2 on at least one day. Mike's managed second place one day, and Louis, I think, hit the podium once. So this is their last chance to prove something, and they will be trying their best to break away. They'll be trying to get in front, whereas Sebastian and Thilo don't have any need for that. They just need to beat each other. Sebastian just needs to beat Thilo by quite a bit. So it's actually all Thilo's to lose. Thilo's got this to lose. Let's see how he manages and copes with that.
Okay, take a look. They are passing the middle of the valley with good altitude, and well, Thomas is the high one with 3,300 meters. Very good for him, and well, they will join together, I think, in Meranges Valley zone. Yeah. And Thomas is the last one, but it's a relative position. Remember, he is the highest one, so yeah, I think they will join the group.
Yeah, he stopped to climb. I think he thought that what he's been doing the last few days hasn't been working too well. So maybe he needs to change his tactics a little. Maybe he needs to try and operate a little bit higher. But you know, it's like that. If your confidence wanes a little bit, it's very difficult to fly as well as the guys who are really feeling confident about their decision making, confident about being able to find the lift in the right place.
Yes, and meanwhile we can see a picture of how the Cadi Mountains look like. That's the route nobody chose at the moment. They all of them turned north. They are not going that way. It means the North Mountains will have better look.
Yeah, actually, I'm surprised in that picture that there's a lot more cumulus than we saw only half an hour ago. So it could turn out to be even better than we thought, because we expected blue thermals for most of the flight to about 3,200, and they're consistently getting to that altitude, but with cumulus to market, it makes it very much quicker, because you can go straight down the good routes and not have to seek them out in the blue conditions.
Yes, the only thing is going through the southern route, as we said some days before. When you arrive to Andorra Valley, you have the jump is higher, it's about 20 kilometers. You have to pass over the valley with almost no energy, wet ground, irrigation. So it's always good going through the north, but if somebody wanted to make something different, to make its own way, that was the route. And now, not at the end of the race.
So they're coming up to the Puy-Moron Valley. Actually, they're coming up to Marangas here. And we can see that Louis and Aldo and Gilles on the top have not done quite so well. They're 100 meters lower, and they will probably continue to the same place. It looks like nearly everybody's going to be climbing in the same place, just on the corner of the mountain, just on the corner of Carabassa or
Carabassa.
yeah.
And meanwhile, you can see Piet Krecik is taking a southern route. We also remember Piet is flying GS in the 3. So 2 groups, northern one, with Louis, Aldo, Gilles, and Christophe, and the middle with the main group. And only Piet chose the southern route, which some days before just also tried John Gatfield and Mike Young with, I think, good results.
Yeah, well, he could have decided that the cumulus along the valley are going to work better than the mountains. It's a long shot, but he's got a good altitude. He's a very good pilot. He's going very well. It's for us, it's very entertaining because now we can find out which of these routes is best.
Yes.
The pilots, once they've made their decision, it's really difficult for them to change. Peter's just running a little bit of cumulus now out from the mountains. He's trying to get the edge that along that cumulus. We can see it's maintained height really well. Will he cut right and go back into the mountain in a moment, or will he cut left towards the caddy? That's the question.
Yes, and meanwhile we can see at the bottom of your screen data of one pilot of each 3 groups. Well, Petri's himself in his only group, he's only one in the group, so you can compare. I don't think the pilots that went to the north, the French and Aldo, had better results. Even though I think the pilots who passed through the middle of the valley are performing better, I think. They are all arriving to Nula and Meranges Valley, just north of the airfield, and we will see where they stop to climb.
Yeah, they're coming on to Carabassa now. It's very good here. The wind is blowing straight up the slope. It's blowing from the southwest. They're coming onto a southwest or westerly facing slope. There's little bits of cumulus on it. They're at a good altitude. They're just about level with the top, maybe just a fraction below the top at the highest point. But the interesting thing about this position is you often don't get a really good thermal here. And even though they're in a good place, they might well not find it strong enough and run on to the next ridge, which takes them around past the bottom of Monturil and onto La Rabassa.
Yes, everybody's passing the mountain. Seems to be, there seems there are not very good thermals, so they are going to La Rabassa zone, arriving. You must remember one of the most important points here is how to pass, where to arrive in Andorra Valley. We can see Sebastian Kawa is at the lead of the group, and Tilo is going a little bit south. I think Tilo is going to do its own way, Brian, again.
Yeah, well, he's probably saw them going up to the top and not really doing so well. And in the line that Peter Temple's taking now in Bravo Sierra, it's quite normal to find a little convergence line that runs along the edge of the hills where the really warm air out of the valley starts to rise up the steeper slopes. To the right of where they are flying now is very flat. And that flat area often doesn't produce very much convection or very much lift.
Yes. And meanwhile, we must see Tilo, I think, has recovered the little distance that Sebastian had over him. And I think Pietro is performing quite well going through the south.
Yeah, he's found the convergence line.
Yes, something has found because he's not climbing, but he's not sinking. I think he's doing quite good. Yankee Oscar and IGC Eugenie, they are at the same altitude, but they stopped at a thermal. Meanwhile, he doesn't stop, and very nice. Meanwhile, we could see some gliders. We could see from our telescope the cruising over the western part of Carabassa. Take a look at them. You can see the white points, some gliders passing, and someone maybe stopping to climb.
I think I need to go to Specsavers. I'm not really picking that out very well. But they're beautiful views of the mountains. That's Carabassa, and beyond Carabassa, you can see what looks almost like a volcano. That's the top of Monturil, and the La Rabassa part that we keep talking about is just the other side of there, running down towards Seu d'Urgell. And it's where the Seu Valley and the Andorra Valley meet, and you get a really good convergence there, and that's why we keep talking about it, because that convergence is very reliable and gives you very good lift nearly all of the time. You can nearly always rely upon that to get you back up.
And you can see there are small patches still of snow here. Although here last day we had about 20 degrees, very nice weather here. And after La Carvasa they go to La Rabasa zone, and there is a cloud there. We will see if it works or not. Okay.
Yeah, and they've stopped to climb. They stopped to climb in exactly where you would expect to get a good climb. Max decided that he wanted to operate at a higher altitude, and he stopped to climb earlier with Christoph, but he's seen them now, and he'll push on to join that same climb. Gilles seems to have done very well, but I think he's a little bit behind, and his crossing of the valley wasn't that efficient, and he's going to have to really work hard if he wants to catch up now. Well, was Max's climb a good one? Because it's going to put him much higher up the slope. Everybody else is carrying on running. They're coming round the corner at 2,100. This is not an uncomfortable altitude in this place.
Yes.
But if it goes down below 2,000, then it starts to get uncomfortable and it starts to become an issue.
Okay, we can see, and it's one of the things we'll talk about today. Always the distance. How far are 3 Victor from GS3? We must say that Sebastian Kawa, who doesn't know Sebastian Kawa in gliding, he has 10 World Championship and 7 European. He also won 3 times the Grand Prix final. He's the best pilot in the world, by the way, ranking #1. Meanwhile, Tilo is, he has been in many Grand Prix, in many finals also, but he is more used to have long flights resulting in 7 national and 1 world record. So I think 2 different kind of flying, Brian.
Yeah, I think so, and a different sort of experience level, but they're both brilliant pilots. They're both absolutely brilliant pilots. And looking at what's happening now, we can see that Peter Temple and Mike have taken a slightly higher route. They don't seem to be much higher, but they're just taking a slightly higher route up the mountain, and we'll see if that pays off. Mike's just scraping over the ridge, which will put him in a good place. The other side of that ridge, the wind is coming up that valley, and he should be in a good place there, and he might even make it over the top of the next one. But I think that they really will need to climb quite soon. Peter's decided to have a look and see if it's working there. It will be working, but Sebastian won't be slowing down. He'll be looking for something really good, and round the corner he might well find that.
Yes, Sebastian, Gintas and Lucas are not stopping. They are keeping on going. Meanwhile, Mike and Pete and Tilo are taking some turns, maybe looking for something. Mike Young is definitely he's turning in a thermal, I think.
Yeah, and they're climbing. They've found something, but it doesn't look good enough. On the corner, it's probably going to be better.
Yes.
You want to be 2,200 or 300, so a little bit more than that, to be right onto the corner. And the problem is that if you get below 2,000, then you start to have to go all the way around, and that's quite a long way. And if you're not in lift when you go all the way around, it can become a little bit difficult, because on the other side, on the western side, it's quite difficult to climb up again from that height.
Yes, the mountains you see in the right part of your screen are higher than the altitude they have at this moment, so they have to deviate to the left, to the south of the valley to pass that zone, and then come back into the slopes. Okay, they arrive into La Rabasa zone, where there are. It's very famous in Andorra. You know, Andorra is mainly dedicated to commerce and touristic. There are shooting range, cars, ski stations, like a thematic park, Brian.
Yeah, and the small country Olympics were held in this area, just in Andorra, which is on the other side you can see of the mountain. On the western side you're in Andorra, and on this side you're in Spain. Yeah, they found it. Oh, Tilo's decided not to take it. No. Lucas and Sebastian are taking it. Well, I would say that was the wise thing to do. Carrying on is really going to be a little bit interesting, because on the corners can be really good, but they're not at an altitude which will make it easy for them.
No, the thing is where they are going. If they're going to the corner, as you said, it's okay. If they are trying to jump the valley with this altitude, I think it's not the best decision. Otherwise, they will arrive lower than the mountains in the east part. Lucas is turning.
It's the first declaration of intent in the flight. Tilo said, no, I'm not just going to follow Sebastian. No, I'm not just going to fly with him. I'm going on, because I think that it's going to be better there. It's interesting. If he was flying really tactically, he would simply turn with Sebastian and let Sebastian push on to the next place. So Thilo's taken that decision, and he's pushed on to the corner. Now we shall see what Sebastian's decided that they've got the right idea, and he's going to join them.
Yes, and from here we can see now a view of how the sky looks like. These are the clouds where they are climbing under. Today you will see that the clouds are not very high. It's because there is a stable zone of air in between about 3,000 and 3,400 meters. So the clouds will not grow very much. It means there will be no rain, no storms today.
So Thilo's done something quite interesting. He's gone down the slope. That can be, the thermal might be better organized, might be stronger, or maybe he's just gone to have a look and he's going to come back up the slope again. But the thermals will be breaking off all the way along this ridge line. You certainly don't want to get any lower at this point. You certainly want to climb up, because the lower you get, the more difficult it gets to find the core. They're now at an altitude where it should be okay to climb away, but they need to be lucky to be right into the first core.
Yes, there was just a few seconds, there was a difference of about 200 meters between Sebastian and Thilo. Sebastian is higher. And well, Thilo seems to be climbing. We'll see who. He's not jumping the valley, but we can see now the other part. Thilo is being closely followed by Sebastian. He's after him with a difference of about only 50 meters. So I think Thilo has marked maybe not a Terman, but a line of energy to Sebastian, who's following it.
Yeah, and there's a ridge line. The Sao Valley has a ridge line which runs to the lorry. You can see it going to the right of the picture there. They can take that ridge line all the way across to the lorry. We talked about this earlier. There is a scenario where Thilo and Sebastian are playing cat and mouse, and they both end up with 0 points, and everybody else comes back home, and we can only really see a change in third place, but it opens the door for other people to make quite a different sort of flight. And we can see that people like Max and John Gatfield and Mike have climbed quite a lot higher. Thilo and Sebastian here, they're having fun, but they're having fun low down. It's be quite warm where they are now, and it's about to get sweaty, I think.
Yes, now we could see just after they were climbing in that line, they turned right, they turned to the east, sorry, and we could see how they passed from 2,000 positive to -5. They were passing the sink that is always close to the positive climb.
Well, this is getting very exciting, because they're down on the top of the ridge, and normally you would expect to be above this and find thermals. And they aren't very high now. They're about 800 meters above the bottom of the valley. The Sao Valley is lower than Cerdanya Valley by 200 or 300 meters, but they really do need something to happen good for them in the next few minutes.
Well,
but they're together. They're happy. They're together. Whatever happens, as long as it happens to both of them, they'll both stay happy. I can't imagine why they've done this, but I'm sure that they've got a very good reason why they're running along this lower ridge.
Yes, I think there are two races. One is between these two pilots, top pilots, and there's another race of the rest of the pilots for the win of the day. These two both will make their own way. We must remember top pilots flying top gliders. Thilo Holyhouse is flying his Ventus 3T, and Sebastian Kawa is flying GS3, the top gliders of the world at the moment. And the distance that Sebastian had in altitude over Thilo decreased. I think he passed him, and they are pretty close in distance. And it could be interesting to see what's happening with the other pilots. Take a look of a general overview, okay?
But not for long. We've got to come back here soon, because we want to see how this unfolds.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure they'll stop to climb in a minute, and if they don't, well, who knows?
Okay, and well, different routes to pass the valley.
Everybody seems to be taking that low ridge line. We can see clearly now the low ridge line that runs towards the lorry. It's good. It'll have thermals, but in this racing situation, they only want the best thermals.
Yes.
And they will be flying through thermals, but they will be rejecting them and looking only for the strongest lift. And we can see that Thilo has started to climb, and Sebastian's got 100 meters. It doesn't sound like much, but actually it makes an enormous difference when you can be on the top of the mountain. Because the lower glider, in this case Thilo, he has to turn on the side of the mountain. But I think he's just coming up to the top. He'll be above the top now. And if they can get in this together, and they can get right on the top, then they should be able to climb together.
Yes, and here comes Bravo Sierra, which is Pete Temple from Australia. Pete is performing quite well these days. So Pete Temple has always been known, okay, he's a flatlands pilot. He's not yet, I think. He's also a very good mountain pilot, okay? And, well, could be interesting because they are joining here the 5 leading pilots.
Thilo's not doing very well with this, and Sebastian's climbing away. This could be a critical part of the flight. Thilo needs to find the climb. He needs to find the climb, and it looks like he's decided to go on to find it. Yeah, very risky strategy, Thilo, but let's see what happens. Everybody else is coming in now, and Sebastian's climbing away okay. He's up at 2-2. I don't think this thermal's any better than the one that they had at Larabasso. They could have taken that higher. Our double act that we had is now turning into a solo act again.
Yes, we must remember, as Brian said, that here flying in mountains, the most important thing is always being above the ridge. So you have different options. If you are below the ridge, you only have usually one option because there is the obstacle of the mountain. And sometimes when you in a mountain flying you have a 0 or 0.5, you must stay there. Otherwise, usually the lower part of the valleys are laminar, stable with no thermal. So always good staying high.
Yeah. Sebastian's climbed up fairly well here. He's got 300 meters now on Thilo, and the other guys are climbing, but none of them are climbing really well. And this is what happens when it's got a blue day. You can't really see the next call. And Thilo's heading into higher and higher ground. As he goes, the ridge is coming up. He's effectively getting lower, although he's managing to keep pretty much the same altitude. He's got a real problem in a minute because he can't run this ridge forever. It doesn't work. And the ridge turns more to the south, and it's the other side where we can see ahead the fire break lines where the power wires are. That's where it will work, but that is at about 1900 meters. And that's the same height as Thilo. So he's not really high enough to get onto that and to get over it. And the last thing he wants now is to get completely stuck. But he's doing okay. He's cruising along. He's going to just have enough height to cross valleys if he needs to. But what he really needs now is 3 meters. And it looks like Sebastian's climbed up well enough to have the option to go straight onto the lorry, where it'll be pretty good. And in the meantime, we got Max, who's set off to cross through the col. What's the col where we normally have a turning point? Just
Col de Canto.
Col de Canto, which is where Max will go through. Max and John and Graham will try to go straight through the col ahead and onto the southwest face of Lorry Mountain, and that should be really good. That even in the when conditions are difficult, normally the Lorry Mountain works really well.
Yes, you can see passing the lines of the fire breaks, and in front of you you could see the top of the mountain of Lorry. We talked many times about Lorry. It's a definite place to climb. Thilo is going through from north to south to Cometa. That's the route some days ago took Charlie and climbed so well there. Also John Gatfield yesterday. He was low here following this route, but when he arrived, he climbed very, very nice.
So this isn't a scenario we expected. We didn't expect to see two groups going in slightly different directions and Thilo on his own in the middle. I can't imagine what's going through his mind. He's suddenly out there alone thinking, am I doing the right thing here? But if he gets a good climb, he'll be very happy.
Yes.
He's not in a bad position here. It's not too bad, providing he can get the lift from both sides, because with the southwest wind, it's coming up the valley you can see running away from us towards Tilo and from the other side. When John and Max have got the thermal that will come out of that gully, there's a long gully running up onto this side of Lorry Mountain, and anybody normally would think, how can you get a good thermal on the downwind side of the mountain? But of course the thermal originates in the Seo Valley and runs up the east side.
Yes, and now we can see a view of how it's performing, how is the sky looks like. Thin clouds, like we said, not high clouds, and but few clouds. And apart from this sky that has not the perfect sky about clouds, is that Tilo is alone. But I think he will climb for sure. He's trying to climb to recover him, but I think Sebastian has some distance over him.
Yeah, well, the distance of Sebastian to go, but Sebastian isn't that high. He's only climbed 500 meters, but it will make a lot of difference. If Tilo doesn't get up well here, he's going to have to scrape around on the front of Lorry Mountain, but he seems to be climbing okay now. We can see his altitude mounting there. If it would be nice for him to get a good climb here, and then they will meet up again on the front of Lorry Mountain.
And the thing is, the second group, in which is Sebastian Kawa flying with them, will... No, I don't think. I was asking if he was going to Tilo zone, or they're going to the thermal of the group, and they're going there, to the main group.
Yeah, and they've only just got to go through the col. From where they are now, they just go a few kilometers west, and they're in the Sort Valley. And then the air mass will be different. We saw in that last picture the wave clouds, the wave shape of the clouds. The cumulus have gone really flat, and they've taken on that sort of lenticular cumulus shape. They're laying crosswind, and that makes it even more difficult to know where to find the good lift, because that will influence the pattern that the thermals will set up, and it may not be possible to predict exactly where you're going to find good lift.
Yes, now you can see all of the gliders passing Tilo by the south, and Tilo is climbing. Tilo finally has found a climb, but the rest of the pilots tried the other route through the south. Take a look at the altitude. I think the group, especially the front with Yankee, Oscar, John, Gatfield, Buderlik, and Piet, had some advantage in front of Tilo, but Tilo will join them for sure in a few minutes.
And the first guys to arrive in that turner, which was Max in Fox Mike, they haven't climbed all that well.
No.
They've not really come up that well. It could be that the conditions are even more challenging than we expected. We've only had one day in this competition where the conditions have been what you would call difficult. Most days the conditions have been pretty straightforward. It's looking like this could be a bit tricky here because they're not getting very high.
Yes, they are arriving to the south of Lorry Mountain. You can see clearly marked. Perfect, thank you very much. And it usually works. The thing is, you must pass the ridges to your right. And John is again trying his best. John, I think he wants to have a better taste than yesterday. He told me that he really enjoyed anyway, had a lot of fun, but of course it's better if you win.
Yeah, and this is John's nemesis. This
Yes.
is where John made his big mistake yesterday. He was putting up a fantastic flight, and then he completely screwed up this turning point.
Yes, and as doing the same as yesterday. He's going alone. He's leaving the 3 or 4 pilots who John was flying with. He has left them in a thermal, and now John is going to Lorry Mountain. The altitude, you can see John's Gatfield label is gray because we lost the data for some moments. We'll have here back, thank you. And Tilo is...
He's gained altitude, but
Yes.
he's going to arrive quite low in this next thermal. He's going to lose contact, I think, with the others, and maybe he's going to struggle to catch up from here, because once they're in front of the Lorry Mountain, I would think they'll get a little bit better conditions and they'll get back up to a good altitude. And it'll take a little while for Tilo to get that back. And we can see Gilles catching up. He's coming up from behind now, along with Eugenie. Eugenie and Vladimir flying together. It's really nice to see them having a good flight today. They've had some excellent flying, considering they have almost no experience of flying in the mountains, and almost no experience of flying here,
Yes.
and no experience of flying these gliders.
Yes.
So they've done really well. These are the winners of the Russian Grand Prix, and they won that Grand Prix flying Yantar gliders.
Yes. Yes.
So it's a new world for them.
Yes, very, very different gliders. But Brian, I think after this Grand Prix, I think all of the pilots have a diploma of mountain gliding pilots. It's a fantastic experience. Meanwhile, let me say hello to everybody who is looking at us, following us on YouTube, especially to our friends of Collserola Gliding RC, who flies in the reaches of Collserola Mountain in Barcelona. Hello, everybody. Nice to know that you are there. Very interesting race. We must remember it's the definitive and last race where the championship will be defined. Okay, it's a difference of 8 points between Tilo Holyhouse, 3 victor at the right of the screen, and Sebastian Kawa. We must remember Sebastian Kawa is 10 times world championship and 7 of European champion. He's used to compete. He's very competitive, Brian. And 2 different kinds of flying.
That's right. And I think that the only other position that can change is third place. Because
Yes.
Who's currently in third place?
Is Didier House regain again. He lost it a couple of days before and regain again against Louis League, but there's only a difference of 1 point between them. It could be very interesting. We must say that yesterday the pilots who won places was Didier who passed Louis, Christophe Limper won 3 places, and in the other side yesterday Louis lost from 3rd to 4th, and Lucas passed from 7th to 9th.
It's not working that well. John's in Yankee Oscar, and he's been there for a little while. He's been in the right place, but he hasn't climbed that well. And it could be that the mountain on the west side of the Sort Valley is giving a little wave, and the down of the wave could be interfering with the thermals.
Yes.
Usually you would expect to come where everybody is now and climb really well and climb to a good altitude. Tilo's on the back side of that, and he needs to cross over. He's got the altitude to cross over now. He'd certainly go over the Col, but he's got quite a way to go to catch up now.
Yes, they have the same altitude, although you can see Sebastian is 2 kilometers in front of him. It's only about 15 kilometers left to Cometa Point, which is audiovisual point. And in Lorry, there are climbs everywhere. It depends on the day. You can see Sebastian and 70, which is Graham Parker. They are going through the ridge from east to west. Very nice. Meanwhile, Tilo is climbing to the north of it. Okay, take a look. They're following the ridge. Thank you, Benjamin. Very nice. And from there, it's 14 kilometers left, which is just 12 because there is a radius of 2 kilometers, Brian.
That's right, but they need to climb because they've got to cross the valley. And they've got to cross the valley into the next turning point at Cometa, and that's on the downwind side of the mountain. So when they cross the valley, they probably won't find a climb, and they may well have to come back to the lorry. John's seeing if he can do that. John's taken the lead, and he's going to see if he can get into the turn. If they want to climb at this turn, they have to go right into the turn onto the south or the southwest face of Cometa. And that is something that not many people will really want to do, but it may be the only way to do this.
Yes, the thing is, we can see there are a couple of pilots low. We could see Didier, Pietre, and Lucas between 1,800 and 2,000 meters. They should climb there. If they are in the correct part, in the correct slope floor mountain, which is the one you are seeing, they should climb very fine. Okay. In the other side, if you are higher, like Sebastian and Graham, you can pass just over the ridge, as we saw just some seconds before, and at the end of the ridge, you jump to the other part of the valley. And now we can see Yankee Oscar John has arrived to the other part of the valley. I think he didn't lose much altitude, Brian.
Well, he's flying quite slowly. He's flown across at 100 kilometers an hour or something. Of course, we have a little problem here because we sometimes lose data in this valley. And so the information isn't updated so quickly. And so things like the speeds and altitudes don't change as quickly as they have been doing.
Yes,
so we just have to guess a little bit as to what's happening.
Yes, if you see the gray labels, is because of we lost data. It's just because there you can see you have some antennas at the system how it works to have the data of the glider systems, and in some places there are shadows because of the mountain. That's why we lose data for some moment. But as you know, they come back pretty easy,
And
pretty fast.
Yeah, Graham Parker's there with Sebastian chasing down John. They'll come up behind him soon. It's going to be a very interesting situation here because I don't think they're going to be able to climb on that corner unless they go round. And John will lead the way. If he goes round and climbs, I think everybody will go round the corner and climb. If he gets to the zone and turns straight back, I should think that's what everybody else will do, because you really need to have the marker to be sure it's working there.
Yes.
Meanwhile, the group at Lorry are still climbing up. They're still decided that they're going for altitude before they leave. They're not that high, but then again, John and Sebastian and Graham didn't climb that high.
Yes, meanwhile, in another fight for the third place between Didier House and Louis Baudrelic, we could see just a few moments before Didier's at the rear of the group. He got stuck at about 1,800 meters. I think he was climbing little by little, but by the moment Louis Baudrelic is in front of him, he's flying coupled with Ginta Zube. He has chosen the northern route. He's pretty close to the fourth point, which is Confide Insurance in Maniga Mountain.
And Didier is a long way back now.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so his third place is under threat. He's being challenged here by Louis and Max. And Max is really pushing on today. He's there with the leaders, along with Bravo Sierra and our other Australian friend Graham, who's up there with them. Mike was there a moment ago, Mike Young from UK. I don't know if he's still with them, but I think, yes, he is. He's still in that same group that are just leaving the Lorry Mountain now to head across to the turn point. We really would have expected them to climb to probably 2,800, 2,700, but the ground here is much lower than in the big mountains, and that's why they're not getting so high. But it would be nicer if they were climbing up to about 2,700, something like that.
And another one of the other fights of the day is for the 5th to 8th place. There's a difference of only 1 point between Ginta Zube, Pete Temple, Christoph Lemfert, and Maximilian Seitz. You can see 3 of them have 16 points, and meanwhile Maximilian has 16 points and Maximilian 15. You can see it's only a point of difference, so today it will change from every position. Thank you, Gerard. And back to the race, you can see everybody's fighting for a position. I think Louis Baudrelic and Gintas are performing quite well. They are high. Meanwhile, the main group is arriving to second point, Audiovisual Barcelona.
Louis seems to have got himself right up, and I think he's decided to stay on the high mountains to get a good altitude, which should take him all the way in. We'll see if he manages to catch up with that. Sebastian's about to come round the turn. John's taken the turn, and we'll be able to look down on that turn and see what they do now. John seems to be just turning and coming back. Sebastian's taken a line quite a long way out from the turn. I do hope that they've got the altitude to get into the zone. We didn't think of this one as being a problem, low down. But maybe we look down from the top bench and just see what happens, because they'll be underneath the image at the moment.
Yes, Cometa is 2,400 meters high, and we can see some pilot, for example, Sebastian is only 1,900 meters. I don't know if they are not able to touch the point. Thank you, Benjamin. So tricky, they must climb.
Yeah, they need to climb, because if they can't get into the sector, they can't go on. But they will have worked this out beforehand. The sectors are 2 kilometers, and on this ridge, I would expect that they could get close enough to take the turn.
Yes. And if they lose time here trying to touch the waypoint, the good route would have been the one that are following Louis Baudrelic, Fox Quebec, and Alfa Romeo Ginta Zube with his 29. We must remember Ginta's performing quite well, one of the surprises of this championship.
Chilo is still back at Lorry, trying to get as high as he can. He's losing touch with this leading gaggle, but he is getting a good altitude, and not much more than the altitude that the leading group left. So he's going to have to get a move on if he wants to stay in touch with this. At the moment, he would be out of the points if we carried on like this. He's got at least 9 gliders in front of him.
Yes, and at this moment, the northern group, it's separating. It's Gintas is taking a southern route. You can see some ridges. From here, you can choose different options. And I think Gintas is taking the northern one. Meanwhile, Luis is turning south. Okay, so Gintas is making a greater deviation. Thank you, Benjamin. You can see following the ridges, and well, we will see what happened with the 2-kilometer radius in Cometa.
Yeah, well, they're climbing now. John Gatfield seems to have left. We have another look from over the top in a moment, Benj, and see what it looks like. But if they are finding some lift there, they'll probably try to climb up, because where they're heading for now are the ridges going down to Beaumont, and they can be quite tricky.
Yes,
Well,
now-
Fox Mike seems to have got into the turning point. We can look right on the top there, Benj, for a moment, and we just see straight down the turning point side, and we can see if they've got in and got out.
Now you can see we are recovering and losing data from 1 second to another because
Well,
they
Max
are-
has turned. Certainly Max turned, but he is at 2,400. And there's some, they're climbing there, but they're not climbing very well. It could be quite tricky. This could make it quite difficult. Louis is going to come in at 2.5. Gilles on his way out. It looks like he's turned. And Gilles is, or was last time we had data, was Alpha X-ray, was good altitude, 2,400. So being higher has obviously been a big, very important. Maybe that's why Thilo hung back. Maybe Thilo worked it out that he needed to arrive at that height. Graham and Sebastian seem to be a little bit stuck there, but we'll get the data back in a moment as they come away from this point and we pick them up from the Berliner antenna.
So maybe at the moment Sebastian is losing against Thilo. Thilo is higher, about 200 meters. They must climb there because they have to pass again the Valley of Sword. One interesting thing in Catalonian, sword means luck. So that's why in the Spanish lottery, some interesting thing, in the Spanish lottery, Sword is the place where many of the lottery tickets are bought. So you want to have luck, you must buy in Sword Valley. Okay. Meanwhile, everybody is joining close to second point Cometa. John is leaving to third point, Beaumont, La Cerdanya point.
It's going to be quite interesting because from Beaumont to go to the next turning point is uphill.
Yes,
Beaumont is about, I think, 6,500, something like this.
2,000 meters.
Yeah, it's 2,000 meters. So that's the height of the turn. It's a 3-kilometer radius. So they can just go into the valley before Beaumont and take it. But then the ground steadily gets higher as they go north. And my feeling is at this sort of altitude, they're going to want to come back up the Sort Valley and back to the lorry.
Yes.
And then
yes.
jump from the lorry and head off back towards Maniga along the Sort Valley route.
It's normal. It's a deviation to the east of about 40 degrees. And meanwhile, you can see embed how the sky looks like. You can see the Beaumont zone and the big Beaumont. They will come from the right of your screen to the left. You can see that cumulus thin, not very high, but it doesn't mean it's not good. It's just because there is a stable zone over that makes the cloud not going higher. And well, less cumulus than yesterday. But anyway, that's the part as we expected that they are going lower, as we expected. You can see that the ridges and the mountains are not well defined, not well oriented, but all a little bit chaotic. And that's the zone. Okay, that's very interesting zone. So it's not easy to know where to go, where to climb, and sometimes every pilot decides its own way.
Yeah, John Scott's he's okay at that height, and we can see that him and Max and Gilles are going on, and Mike are going on together. We can keep our eye on what happens to them because they will arrive on the ridges on this side, and as they come onto the top of these ridges, there isn't really anywhere where you can run, but there's usually good climbs. There's usually good climbs to be taken at the top of each one of these ridges. The ground rises up from the Sort Valley. There's a south-facing part, and on the top of these, there's usually good thermals. And between them, I'm sure that between them they'll find something good.
Yes, John is performing so well. I think he has the confidence. He already knows the place. He already knows the mountains. So I think he's flying with such a big confidence. We must remember, John learned to fly in Norfolk and London gliding clubs. We salute them, and he has done many Grand Prix in mountain places like Cerdanya, Varese, and Santa Filia, where he won. Fantastic. And he tries to do a race as good as yesterday's one, although with points. And now they are going to Third Point Beaumont.
And Beaumont, there's a very big ridge, but they have to cross over it to get to the other side. It's not really very helpful, that ridge, because it doesn't come back in the direction of the next turning point, so they do need to climb up. They're not operating very high at all here, but John's doing remarkably well. He's cruising along here at 100 kilometers. It's almost beginning to be a rerun of yesterday. Max and Gilles will try to climb here, I'm sure. Another 100 meters, 200 meters will make it feel a lot more comfortable heading south into the turning point.
Yes, and I think meanwhile the pilots who take the northern route, which were Ginta Sube, Alfa Romeo, and Louis with Foxebeck, I think they got stuck. Now they are at the rear of the race. Okay, and the group of pilots, the main group of pilots, are following the ridges. They will join, I think, Gilles Navas and Maximilian Saiz. John is making his own route again.
Yeah, and Gilles climbing well. Gilles come up to 2,400. He was climbing okay. 2.5 is going to feel much nicer. Well, I would personally, I really like them to see come back into the 2.7, 2.8, 2,700 category, and it would be much more comfortable for everybody at that height.
Yes, we must say that you are comfortable depending on the height of the ground. For example, being at 2,800 meters in the northern mountains is being low. Meanwhile, Brian, I think being here 2,400 meters, you are high in this zone.
Yeah, well, I'm not so sure that the ground is where they are now. The ground's about 1,800 meters.
Yes.
And it's undulating. There's enough wind to create a little bit of turbulence. But the really worrying thing is there aren't any really obvious places, and it's pretty much blue. Even the cumulus that we do have are probably not marking very well the thermals. But Gilles found it. Gilles found something to take him up, and Max looks like he's found it with him. They will probably continue to climb here until they get the maximum altitude to go south into the turning point. Although Johns hasn't really lost any height. He's becoming quite a ridge runner.
Yes, now we're seeing German pilot Charlie, Christoph Limper, and 3 Victor Thilo Holyhouse are flying together. We must remember Thilo's at the lead, Sebastian Kawa is in second position, and I think it's recovering some altitude, some difference with the leading group. And some pilots, we don't see the
Lewis,
rear pilots.
Certainly Graham and Sebastian are not very high. They will need to climb somewhere here because they can't come on top of the plateau. They can't climb up on top of it. We can see Thilo joining in now. He's just high enough to get onto the plateau. And we've got Thomas there climbing ahead, and Thomas seems to be about, well, he's not very high. No, Thomas isn't really high enough. So they all will need to find the climb, and the one that Gilles had looks like the best climb that's brought him up to 2,500, and from there they can run on into the turning point.
Yes, we have John Gatfield at the lead, followed by a group of 5 with 2 French pilots, Gilles Navas, Maximilian, and also Sebastian and Mike Young. And meanwhile, a little bit to the right of your screen, formed another group. We joined Thilo Holyhouse with Christoph Limper, and nice to see again Eugenie. I think Eugenie is improving day by day. He's with the group. Very good for him, and also with Thomas Gosner. Okay, I think Thomas Gosner is flying quite well after his landing of yesterday.
Well, we expected it to be a little bit lower in this area, and we expected it to be a little bit more difficult. It's partly why we went down here, because on the last day, you don't want the race to be too easy and straightforward. But I must admit, we didn't really expect it to be this sort of height. We thought there'd be another 400 or 500 meters of operating band here.
Yes,
And maybe if Serge is about, he can tell us what he thinks to flying in this area, this height, if he feel comfortable.
yes, well, it's not here by the moment, but I have a question. Has anybody seen if John touched the waypoint above Mort? I'm not sure. Yes, yes. I didn't see, I'm sorry. Because I was looking at him coming back and I didn't know if he had or not.
A lot of people flying around the 2,000 meter mark, and Maximilian is sticking with Gilles. John's on his way out, and Thilo's on his way in the same way. And it looks like Sebastian's climbing okay now. He's back up above 2,000 feet, so he'll very quickly be in the same line as the others. You see how we get the data back as soon as they come above the mountain. It's when they get into the valleys that the antenna on the glider is shielded, and we just lose the data for a while. Yes, Sebastian's climbing reasonably well now, so it looks like he's going to be able to come back up to run into the turning point.
Yes, Gilles is going to touch the third point of La Cerdanya in Beaumont Mountain. And Gilles, I think he has about 300 meters more than John Gatfield.
Louis taken quite a different route.
Yes.
The valley Louis is flying up is good. It normally is a good valley, but we wouldn't normally be there at that height. We'd normally expect to be a little bit higher. Be interesting to see if he can run up the ridge, because he's approaching the turning point from the highest part of the ground, and he has to get into the zone. I'm pretty sure he will be all right, but I certainly think he'd be more comfortable if he found a thermal and he could climb up, or if he found really good ridge line. If he does find a thermal, he's going to make a good marker for Thilo and Eugenie going in. It's nice to see Eugenie catching up with Thilo. He's going to feel comfortable. Mike's heading off to join Louis there, and he's probably spotted that that's a good ridge and a good place to go.
Yes, we must remember that the second point, which is audiovisual to the third point in La Cerdanya, is 20 kilometers length, and the next one, which is Maniga, situated to the north, is 34 kilometers. They turn north, and the thing, as Brian said, is Beaumont mountain is 2,000 meters high, and many of the mountains between 1,800 1,900 meters. Meanwhile, Maniga to the north is 2,500 meters. So they must climb, and the thing is the altitude between the ground and the cloud is no much, so they must climb little step by step, and especially find the cloud with higher base.
Yeah, and it looks like Mike's joining Louis, and Louis climbed reasonably well there, so let's hope he does. And I think that Thilo's seen it. You can see the line of the ridge going into the turning point. Approaching the turning point along this ridge is a very much better direction than coming at the turning point directly from the north, because when they've climbed up here, they should be able to run the ridge all the way into the turning point. And if they can turn at 2,200 or more, they can then start to work their way back up the high ground, back towards the Laurier Mountain. For Fox Mike and Max there, he seems to have found a little climb in that point. John's decided to take the Seo Valley, and I'm not sure that's going to be all that comfortable in a minute.
Yes, meanwhile we could see just 10 minutes before Sebastian Kawa was in front of the leader with Holy House. Now Thilo is closer to the third point of Beaumont La Cerdanya, although he's a little bit lower. So at this moment, if the race finished at this moment, Thilo would win the whole championship. We'll see what happens. It's still about, we have left about 125 kilometers from Beaumont Point, and from Maniga, which is 34, there will be 90 kilometers left. So we are right now in the middle of the race. Okay. So Sergi is back with us. Hello, Sergi. What do you think about the race and the weather?
Hello, everybody. Well, this is the Beaumont Mountain that the normal works really good, but today it's a little tricky. You have some stability, and with these conditions, sometimes it's not easy to find a really good thermal, and with the wind, it's broken. After the mountain to the south, it will be the flat area, and they have a lot of fields for to land. And if not, even they are in local of La Seu d'Urgell airport, that it's in the north of the screen now. But he will find a lot of small things for to keep the altitude or small thermals that climb in a little. Just he go again to the north.
Yes, and meanwhile, thank you, Benjamin. We can see a general view. Unfortunately, Go Lamazelaski, who's flying a GS-1C Evojet, and Aldo, who's flying a LAC A17A. They are at the rear. They still hasn't arrived to Comet Audiovisual Barcelona. Thank you very much. I think they are flying together, not very high. And okay, we see them. Unfortunately, Aldo is still one of the group of the 0 Points Club. At this moment, there are 4 pilots, which is Graham Parker, 7-0, Aldo Rodriguez Lima Echo, Vladimir Radosky, Mike Delta, and Eugeni India Gold Charlie. Nobody wants to be in that lot. We hope that these pilots leave the club together, leave this club today. And okay, looking back, we can see, John is a little bit lower. Huh?
Yeah, it's not good because when you start to go the south direction, it starts to be a little more difficult to find thermals. We will see what happens. It's he arrived to La Seu d'Urgell. It's 800 meters. It's enough altitude for to arrive with his glider.
Yes, he's in local. He can
Yeah,
land there with
it's
no
in
problem.
London. It's not a problem.
So don't worry.
But sometimes it's not easy with this altitude to find good thermal here. But we will see. John yesterday push. He stayed low and low, and he found good thermals. We will see what happens today.
Yes.
But the others have to keep the altitude of the mountains, take the maximum altitude that he can, and go to the north.
Yes, the thing is, John Gatfield didn't manage to climb, so he cannot go to the north. We said the ground is getting higher and higher. Meanwhile, Gilles Navas and I think Maximilian Saiz, they were higher, yes, and Louis Buderlich, and even though they stopped to climb, so it's good. They have to climb to go to the north. They are doing quite good. And
sorry, John. I think that John made the mistake when he turned. He really should have come round to the west. The intention on this task is that you come back up the Sword Valley, and then you fly along the eastern side of the valley with the western ridges, and you should be able to pick up something all the way along there. He's gone into the Seo Valley. There'll be some thermals probably, and he stands a chance of climbing up, but it's not normally good. But on the other hand, Gilles gone the same sort of way. They're heading back on the ridges that they used when they went between Larabassa and the lorry. So let's see what happens when they get there. They really need to go a little bit more to the west, I think. Although, no, Gilles maybe, do you think, no, look, Gilles actually heading for the lorry. So that should be okay.
yes, and in the fight for the third position, I think Louis Buderlich at this moment is clearly winning. He already touched the third point of La Cerdanya and Beaumont Mountain. Meanwhile, Fox Delta, Didier House, is struggling to arrive to the second. I think he got stuck twice, and at this moment we could be the third. And Didier has had a little options to be second, but at this moment it's not possible. And we'll see who one is going to be the third.
The interesting thing about this sort of race is each day we see something different happening. Every day we see people taking a different route and trying something out, and quite often it doesn't work, but just every now and again it works fine. And Gilles, we always saw Gilles doing something different, always going a different way, and today it looks like whatever it is he sees is right, and he's doing a really good flight here, and he's pulling away from them, and he's staying quite high, and he's going to be on the Lorry Mountain now.
Yes.
And he has a good chance now of getting into Maniga without any real problem.
Yes, up to him we could see just a few kilometers. We could see Mike Young at 120, but he's 700 meters below, so he cannot further to the north. And Maximilian, you can see they are stopping on turning to the left. I think they are not able to climb the ridge, or maybe trying to climb there. But Gil Navas held the altitude perfect, well done to arrive to Lorry, climb Lorry, and then go north and to Maniga Point, which is Confide Point. Interesting here. Huh?
Yeah, Max and Louis are flying together now, and they've got a decent climb, and Mike will join them. And Gilles way away. He's really pulling away now because he's getting back into where the air's good. He's getting back into better conditions. It'll be interesting for us to watch if he takes the Sort Valley up and where it splits at Esteri, and then he goes right and follows the ridges up to Maniga, or whether he comes from the lorry directly over the top, a little bit more easterly route.
Yes, and meanwhile we could see the group following, chasing Gilles Navas. We could see Gintas Zube and Lucas still hasn't arrived to the third point of Beaumort, but they joined the pilots already passing to Maniga. You can see them, they are pretty close. Maybe there are some clouds of one so another, and Tilo is coming from the south. He will join them. Interesting.
Mike Delta, Vladimir, he's really sunk down into Salt Valley there. I'm not sure if he isn't going to end up landing in Salt Field. I'm not sure if Mike Delta's got an engine, has he?
Yes.
Yeah, he's got an engine, so that'd be good for him. But he's really quite low now in this valley, and you can see the big landable field at Sort underneath. What height's the field at, Sergei?
Well, it's something like 600, 500 meters, 400 meters.
At altitude.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's still got he's still got 800 meters, and I've been down there, and I know that you can climb away on the lorry from there. Southwesterly wind. If he can take himself over towards the lorry or one of those ridges, and he's a little patient, he will be able to climb back up again. But of course, I just had a good look at the conditions outside, and the cumulus have gone completely flat now, shaped like lenticulus, and I would think that there's quite a lot of interference now between wave and rotor with the thermals, but more importantly, it looks like the air's warming up a little bit and stabilizing. And if that happens on these lower mountains, it's difficult. It is good ahead because we can see that Adam to the north, who hasn't gone to the turning point yet, is 3,000 meters. And yet we can see from the picture there you're seeing on your screen now how the cumulus have gone completely flat. You can see the visibility's dropped quite considerably, and it shows that we're getting a sort of moister, more stable air masses moving in, could be coming up from the Ebro Valley.
Yes, it's I think west and southerly wind, which is usually not as clean as the northern. It's at the north wind.
And if that is a more stable, warmer air coming the Ebro Valley, that would account for why this turning point's been difficult. It's my fault. Shouldn't have chosen this turning point today, but with hindsight, you can always make the right decision.
Yes, you can see Adam is the higher pilot at the moment, but you must remember, Adam is at the rear of the race. He separated from Aldo, and take a look at the pilots, lower pilots in problems. Thomas Gosner 1,500, and Vladimir and Graham they're about 1,600 meters. We left them a few minutes before over south landable field, so no problem for there. And we'll see if they manage to go around from there. The thing could be going.
John's climbing up again. John's climbing himself up the eastern face. If he climbs back up there, he'll be back in the game and heading north.
But yes, he will be back in the game. But I think Gilles has a net advance and also is climbing quite well in Lorry. The thing is, Gilles also has a ridge and the mountains going to Manega. Meanwhile, John would have to deviate to the left, otherwise go straight over the valley. We will see.
And the lead that Gilles has built up, which is considerable, is all because he found that one climb on the way into the turning point on the top of the valley, and he managed to gain 200 to 300 meters more than everybody else, which meant he was round the turn and back to the same place, and now he's off going north. And he's heading back into what I would think would be much better air mass. We're away from the valley air, away from any influence of the lower air mass, and he's going to probably find that on the next run up this valley, he'll be able to climb back up above the 2,500 meters maybe even get back up to 3,000 meters for the next leg.
Yes, and in the meanwhile, we could see Adam Zelatsky and Aldo Rodriguez still hasn't arrived to Cometa, but I think they are going to Lorry to climb there, not going directly, but making a deviation to climb before the valley, jump, touch the waypoint to come back. Okay, we can see them. Thank you very much, Benjamin. And from here, you can see the incredibly rocky slopes of Lorry. You can see no forest, no plants there, so heating every day.
There's an old saying about finding good places to climb. You look for where there's no trees because they can't climb where it's windy all the time when it's blowing up the mountain.
And interesting, let's come back to the fighting for the championship, for the first place. You can see Tilo in the middle of your screen, 3 Victor, 2,600 meters. Tilo on its own, doing his flight, his way.
Yeah.
He's not. He doesn't make anything he's supposed to do, like marking his competitor, but he's doing his own flying.
When Sebastian's done really well, he got really stuck. He was down at 1,700 meters. It looked like it was all over. That's a lot of pressure.
Yes.
That's a lot of pressure on a day like this. And he's obviously sorted himself out, found the climb, got back up. He's back in the race.
Yes. Meanwhile,
and I wouldn't be at all surprised if we don't see Sebastian up there in the front, or thereabouts, by the time we get on the second leg.
I think he will fight until the very last moment. And meanwhile, we could see Christoph and Thilo, the German pilots, who were flying together, but now they are staying apart. Christoph is going with the group of Eugenie and Sebastian. I think Eugenie is doing quite good. We would say just a few seconds before.
And John Gatfield's back in the game. He's got his bum off the ground and got himself some altitude, and he'll be heading back up with the rest of them. And I think he's probably fallen back quite a way now, but at least he's back in the race. And Eugenie and Sebastian flying together, and Christoph. That's a nice little group there. They should be able to help each other as they're going north. But Sebastian's got his sights now on the group ahead. He'll be able to see them. He'll be able to see they're climbing up on the lorry, and he'll go, yep, that's where I'm going. Let's get some altitude, and let's get out of here.
Yes, and Eugenie is doing quite well. We must remember that he won the Grand Prix in Usman. He was first, but I think there they used to fly Yantar Standard, which are gliders pretty different from the gliders they are flying. Okay, so it's very well done for Eugenie. Now he's in the he's fighting for the first positions.
Gilles hasn't run so well. Gilles in Alpha X-ray, he's not running on quite so well now, and he's seems to be looking for a climb at this point. He's in a good place. He's in a very good place to find a climb. He's at a good altitude for it. He could actually run right into Maniga here, into the turn point, if he wanted to, but he's going to be scraping along the ground a little bit as he does that. I would have thought if he can get a decent climb here, he'll take a few hundred meters, or at least 100 meters, which will take him into the turn point. From the turn point, it's a straight run. He can run along the top of Maniga. He can run along towards the Antenna Mountain, and he's back on Larabassa. And really, the race, whoever's highest first on Montreal is probably going to be home first.
Yes, and we can see Gilles Navas following the ridges. He seems to have found a very nice climb, and you can see the comparison because Thilo is about 10 kilometers behind him, but with a difference of 300 meters higher. He's cruising quite fast. I think there's not a big difference between them, although Gilles is now climbing
he's really going up now, and this is going to make him very happy. If Gilles doesn't change very much, he never seems to get sad, he never seems to get really happy, he's always the same. He's really experienced guy. He's been gliding for a long time, and he's been flying championships a long time. Yes. And it doesn't seem to bother him what happens.
No. And one interesting thing is that if Thilo catches Gilles Navas, it will be very funny, because just today after Thilo won the day, we could see Gilles in the cockpit of Thilo's GS3. Maybe Thilo was selling here a Ventus 3, sorry. So maybe that's the way that Thilo is having a sell.
Yeah, maybe. But Gilles is a really good guy. He's cool. He doesn't get phased, and he won't actually be worried too much about where everybody else is.
Yes.
He's just making the flight, and he seems to do that whether he's at the front or the back. But he's and look who's coming up from the right. It's Mr. Gatfield again. He's roaring in. He's I don't know. He keeps turning up and then getting out ahead. Well, he's done a really good job. I'm really surprised how he's come out of that so well. He's obviously found a good climb.
Yes.
Mike's not very high. Mike's running in quite low here. He definitely needs to climb.
Do you think he will arrive high enough to catch that climb? Right?
Yeah, I think he will. But whether it's as good at his altitude is another matter. He will almost certainly get a reasonable lift here. But Gilles caught a really good climb. And we can see from Gilles' altitude now he's going to be into the turning point and away off to the east. And that's the wind behind you. So
yes.
he's going to be going even quicker now.
And take a look at your screen, because there are some pilots that usually get attracted because of the group. But John isn't. John, again, making its own way. For sure, he saw Gilles Davas climbing quite well, but he managed to find another thermal just before arriving him. Very happy for John. We left him some minutes ago 1,600 meters, and he found a good climb. He's back again.
Yeah, and Gilles climbing as he goes. Gilles
Yes.
climbing as he cruises there, right onto the top of the mountain. He's back in the wind, he's back in the good air, and he should be able to pick up even more altitude as he runs along the top here.
Yes, he's arriving to fourth point, Maniga, Confide Point, which is pretty close to Saloria Mountain. You can see in the top part of your screen. I don't think if somebody will follow that route. We will see what happens. From Maniga Point, they have only 90 kilometers left until the finish line. So we passed. We are already after half of the race.
And it's downwind. From
Yes,
now on, the wind
yes.
is with them. As long as they have the altitude to final glide from the last turn point, they're going downwind now, so it should be good.
Yes, he's cruising fast. He was cruising about 200 kilometers, but he's going into the waypoint. He's not turning east. It means there is something there interesting. There's a climb, and he knows the higher ground where he is at the moment is the best place to climb. Okay. And John is going to catch him, I think. Maybe not at the same altitude, but
maybe not. I think Gilles will be away, but Mike's certainly not very high there. He's running into here quite low, Mike. He's not at an altitude that would make you feel really comfortable, but he's okay, and he's all the time to his left side now. He's got the Sword Valley. If he goes to his right, it's really high valley, and the col at the other end is quite high, and it's quite tricky to get out of there. So he doesn't want to be going into that right-hand valley. He wants to be running up to the turning point and hopefully climbing as he comes into there. Now Gilles is operating at a much better altitude. He's on the top of the mountain. It gives him the opportunity to keep running. He's onto Larabassa, and he's got his sights on the downwind run from Monterrey back home.
yes. And meanwhile, the rear pilots, Aldo Rodriguez and Adam Zelaski, I think they both touch the second point, which is audiovisual. Well done. I think they will manage to do the task. And okay, here we have the leading group. Okay, and in the leading group, leading zone, there are both aspirants. I don't know, both pilots fighting for the first position. We must remember there's a difference of 8 points. 8 points between the leader Tilo Hollyhouse flying a Ventus 3T and Sebastian Kawa flying a GS3.
Yeah, and Sebastian's caught up with Tilo. He's caught up with Tilo. He's done very well there. He climbed out of his low spot. Tilo spent a long time just short of Lorry Mountain, and if I know Tilo Hollinghouse, he was looking for the wave.
Yes.
He was high, and he spent maybe a minute or so looking around, and I think he's probably been trying to see if he can find a wave route to do this flight and make himself very happy to be high. But it's not worked for him, and he's cruising along here with Louis, and he and Louis will be going well together along this slope into the next turning point.
The thing is here, different from Cerdanya Valley, where there are long ridges, so there are long lines of wave, but here you can see the mountains are not well organized, also as Beaumont as well. There are only a small patches of wave, so maybe it's not better trying to find it, but keep on flying as a normal thermal day.
And I wonder if Mike's climbed, because he wasn't very high and he seems to be zigzagging around a bit up there. Now he's on Maniga. If he continues to the east, he will come out of there, into the Andorra Valley. And you have to remember that Mike doesn't have an engine, and so he's got to make it work. Yeah, he's having to soar the ridge now. He's having to climb up on the ridge because he didn't find the climb. It'll cost him time, but as long as he climbs well, then won't lose too much. John's gone on. John's decided that it's another ridge run. Here I go. I'll just have a go at this.
Yes, and take a look at my young. You can see the track, the path. That's the normal technique when you are lower than the ridge of the mountains. You just made eights, okay? Just flying where the climb is the higher one and turning back again. This is a normal technique in flying mountain. That's why the most important thing is flying, mountain gliding, stay above the ridge always. Otherwise, you are concerned about what you can do.
Well, you can run the ridge below the top comfortably in the right place, but there's an old saying about dominate your mountain. Once you're on top of it, then you have the choice. Whilst it's on top of you, you don't have the choice,
Yes.
and you just have to you have to stay in the place you can rather than where you want to be.
Yes, now we can see half of the pilots arriving to the fourth point, Confidence Run in Maniga Mountain. John is keep on going. He's going following the ridge after Gilles Navas, okay? And now we can see little difference between both leaders, Tilo and Sebastian. Some distance, much distance and altitude for Tilo, okay? John, anyway, is high. I think he's climbing. I don't know if the ridge is working or he stopped to climb in a thermal. Yes, he's stopped. I think Mike will catch him.
Yeah, Mike will see him,
Yeah.
but he's quite a lot higher. I mean, he's 500 meters higher. That's a lot. He'll be a speck, and Mike will be wishing he was up there with him. But Tilo and Louis are flying well together now, and Max is with them. This is quite a good group to be in. Sebastian's got Christoph for comfort. That's a nice group to be in, and Peter Temple. He's running in, and it looks like the route that Tilo and Louis took was a little bit more efficient.
Yes.
They ran up that ridge, they probably had better air, and they've arrived at the turning point just a little bit sooner and higher, because only a few moments ago Sebastian had actually gained all the distance on Tilo. They were the same height, and Sebastian was a little bit in front.
And something curious, because usually in the short legs like this one, from second point to third point, is only 23 kilometers, but it's very curious how they spread out all around the mountains, all around the ridges, taking different routes, and now they are getting close together again, joining again, and we'll see if they follow the same route or not. I think they will follow the ridge that Mike and John took before. Meanwhile, Gilles, I think he went north. Okay.
Okay, we'll come back to you in a minute, but Christoph Limper, he's a nice guy, he's German, and I was talking to him about his experience, and he told me that he actually gave up gliding, and he completely gave it up, and he went to visit the Wasserkuper the weekend when we had the Sailplane Grand Prix final in the Wasserkuper, and he was so impressed by the concept. He thought, this is what I want to do. I want to race like this. I'll go back, and he's going back into gliding, bought himself a glide, and he flies every year at least 1 or 2 Grand Prix, and he loves it. He says it's just the right sort of flying.
And
Everybody starting together and flying the same task.
Yes, and just a few seconds before, we could see in the right part of your screen, Mike Delta is Vladimir Radowski flying with a GS1. He was second on Grand Prix in Usman in 2018. Okay, he started competition just 3 years before, and he has only experience of 750 hours gliding. His home club is Usman, where he was second in the Grand Prix. And well, I think he's a young man, young pilot, so for sure we will see him in many Grand Prix, many competitions. And he started gliding in Colorado in 2012, and he loves gliding. Last week we saw him making his first flights with GS1 in the strong wave days, and he did quite well. So we can expect Vladimir to fly very nicely next year. Huh?
And meanwhile, Gilles is coming on to La Rabassa. He's coming on to just the western bowl there, and we should have a look at Gilles and see what's happening to him, because I think he's going to run round the corner here, and if he picks up a good climb, 3,000 meters here, and it's more or less a final glide. He'll take the top of Carlite, and that will bring him in energy and better conditions, much better conditions for the rest of the way. So this is where he should climb. If he's lucky and it's his day, he's going to find a good 2 to 3 meters here and bring him up to over 3,000 meters.
Yes, now you can see how the sky looks like in the leg. They are going from Manigat to Montlouis. There are only 2 longs left. This one is 65 kilometers, and you can see clearly marked the Andorra Valley, the Andorra city capital of Andorra country. They are arriving to Rabassa, and now Gilles is making what we thought about. We talked about some days before. One interesting way of climbing is not stopping to climb in the Rabassa zone, but starting in the northwestern part of the ridge and arriving to the southernest part and climb there. Look for a climb there. Now Gilles is climbing, and I think John just regained some difference, Brian.
Yeah, I think so. I think he's really closed up. I can't get over how surprised I am, because I know John very well, and he has not got anything like the normal experience of these guys, but he's such a happy guy. And Mike's going to come onto there as well. I don't think Gilles is climbing quite as well as we had expected, but he's doing okay. He's got 2 meters there, and he's going to bring him up to the altitude he needs. And the important thing is at 3,000 meters, he can go more or less straight. And he will be able to fly right along the tops of this range through all the way to Pedro. And if he can maintain that height to Pedro, he's definitely got a final glide.
Yes, so we can see the goal arrival height, the height they need to arrive to the finish line. They are under 0, so they need more height. But the thing is, there are clouds above northern Pyrenees. They will catch some energy from just making pull-ups and passing under energy lines. With this glider, it's normal that they start the final glide many meters from the 0. And the one thing interesting is we saw 6 pilots joining together in a thermal. I think they are over 3,000 meters with Pete Temple, Thilo, Maximilian, Louis Buderlich, and Christoph. And it's curious, maybe it's possible that they catch the gliders in front of him, and if they don't catch them, they will be pretty close.
Yeah, there is a chance they can catch up here. They've still got to cross the valley. They're 4 or 5 kilometers behind, but they've got a very good altitude. And there is a chance that they will come up. They'll certainly catch Mike, I think, but I'm not sure they'll catch Gilles. I think Gilles will be leaving soon. He'll be up. They've got to get to the same altitude, and they've got to get there. He'll be gone. He'll be long gone, and he'll be running along to the east towards the last turning point, which is Montlouis. And from that's, I'm not sure how far we've got to go to Montlouis, but it can't be more than about 60 kilometers. And then it's 25 kilometers from Montlouis home.
And we could see just a few seconds before that Sebastian and Thilo are again together. Not very different. I think they're pretty close of course, in distance and in altitude. So at this moment, Thilo would retain the leading, the first position. You can see them flying together. Pete Temple, Thilo Holyhouse, Sebastian Kawa, 2 friends, Louis Buderlich and Maximilian Seitz, and also Christoph Limpert. Well done, Christoph Limpert. In a couple of flights, he got stuck, but he struggled to go out, doing quite well. And you can see them clearly. They are passing Andorra Valley, and you can see they will follow the ridge until a place where they can find a thermal. And Gilles Navas has left. Gilles Navas is gone. He's about 2,900 meters, and he's climbing, cruising, so there is energy there. And maybe he's already in final glide, Brian.
I would think so. He's going to pick up that energy. It says he needs 400 meters, but he's going to be able to pick up a lot of that as he goes. We should see that by the time he crosses Puy-Moron Valley, we want to see that dropping down to 200 meters or so. If he does do, then he's pretty much on glide.
Yes.
John hasn't really found a good climb here. He's still looking, and in the meantime, there's quite a pack coming in to join them with Thilo and Sebastian and Louis, Max, Christoph, Peter Temple. It's quite a good group. This is going to be an exciting finish for these guys.
Yes. There will be a group of 8, and there's a difference of only about 150 meters between the low and the higher pilots. So it will be very, very interesting. Take a look at what John is doing. He's flying over the ridge, just regaining altitude, making some pull-ups. We could see in a moment how the weather looks like. Take a look at La Rabassa with that cloud thin, not very high, but you can see it's dark. So there should be energy there, Brian.
Yeah, but I'm not sure it's all that usable because the wave will be breaking on the top. They will be finding good climbs, it will be marking, and that's what you'd expect to see at La Rabassa. John's decided he's running on, Mike's running on. Mike's not climbed that much, but he's going to turn this into a ridge flight.
Yes.
It seems like Sebastian and co are going to just keep running on. In previous 2 or 3 races when we've gone this way, mostly the winners climbed here, which is what Gilles did. This group doesn't climb. It could be they end up in a situation where they'll have to climb when they cross the Puy-Moron Valley. But if they gain the altitude back on the way there, then maybe they'll be able to keep running on. It'll be interesting now to see whether or not they can turn this into a final glide.
Yes, and take a look at the 3 different tracks, 3 different paths. John followed the ridge, taking as much energy as he could. Meanwhile, Mike Young was lower than the mountains, so he had to turn to the right to pass the mountains. And the group who took the higher thermal before the Dora Valley, they were able to pass over the ridge. They are following John, and we will see who is trying, who will make the second. I think Gilles Navas is clearly at the lead, Brian.
Yeah, well, we can see the altitude required is dropping all the time. Maybe we just have a quick check on the altitudes bench and just see what the relevant differences are at this point. And it'll give us some idea of what's happening here. Mike hasn't really taken that, and he's having to take it a little bit further out, so he's going to lose probably 6 places all in one go, which won't make him the happiest bunny. And he was pushing on and doing well, but always that little bit too low. Whereas John's going to get caught almost certainly, and he's going to be coming home with this group with Louis and Max and Sebastian. They're all going to be coming home together. And of course, they're all flying JS3s, and John's flying ASG29, so we're going to see the difference. Tilo is same sort of height, cruising along behind in the Ventus 3. Yeah, he's going to be comfortable. He's going to say, well, okay, it's all right. What matters now is that I stay like this, we keep the same difference, and that will make me the champion.
Yes, we must remember that Mont Louis Point, number 5, which is La Molina Point, it's about 1,600 meters over sea level, which is about 500 meters over La Cerdanya airfield. And the thing is, just today's point, La Llagona was higher than one. It was a little bit more tricky. And well, we see, even though Gilles stopped to climb, and I don't know if the group will catch him. In the meanwhile, there is a group of 2, I think it was Graham Parker 7-0 and Eugenie with India Mike Delta. They were traveling a little more to the south, in the middle of the valley. Sorry, Vladimir, the other Russian pilot.
Yeah, they're just a little bit low to take this top route. And the top route is where the energy line is. And they should be able to run along this top route. They're all going to be the same way. Gilles is not really a very pushy pilot. He's a very thinking, conservative pilot. And he won't be really pushing on hard on the glide because that's not the style of flying. But I think he's got enough of a margin to ensure that he doesn't get caught. I would have thought it's unlikely that they'll catch him, but we can be sure that Max and Sebastian Louis will be pushing as hard as they possibly can, because these guys will be pushing each other here. And yes. Gilles doesn't have that motivation.
Yes, and we can see a little image traveling from west to east. That's how the sky looks like over the mountains. That's the main group is flying. You can see little clouds, wisps, and when they pass them, they make some pull-ups to take out the energy, to regain the energy. Okay. Meanwhile, we could see Graham Parker and Vladimir that were going south. They can't take altitude from there, not energy.
And Gilles, his distance, his altitude required dropping really quickly. He's found a really good energy line. By Puy-Moron, he should be absolutely home with 200 kilometers an hour, He's flying fast now, 225. At those sort of speeds, he's not going to be caught. If he can keep that sort of speed for the rest of the glide, nobody's going to catch him. And we can see that the group behind Sebastian, they've arrived just a bit too low to go over the top. It's 2,700.
So they don't turn south. They are over the ridge of La Carvasa mountain.
And they're being pushed out. They're being pushed rounded. That's no chance of catching Alpha X-ray now. They're catching Gilles.
And the problem is when they get low enough to pass to turn to their left, after the Carvasa ridge, there could be some sink because it's downwind after La Carvasa. Take a look at them.
Yeah, another 100 meters at Monteril would have meant straight over the top. And that's the problem when you get the pressure. Once one goes, they all go, and then they all get stuck in the same place. But I don't think they're too worried. None of these guys will mind the Gilles winning, or maybe Louis will, I'm not sure. Maybe Max will, because there are obviously a little bit of competition between the French pilots to be the highest French pilot. But they've come round, and Thilo's pulled round the corner there with them, and the group is going to cruise home together. And I think they've got the altitude, but it's a little bit trickier for them.
And meanwhile, we can see the telescope image. They're passing from Niula. In the middle, you can see Tour de Carol Valley and how the Carlit Ridge looks like. That's Gilles, where he was cruising and where he was gaining height. Very done. There you can see the image. It's clearly marked.
He's got 46 kilometers to go. And he's got 1,400 meters. That's a really fat glide.
But I think he will keep on going over that ridge. You can see clearly marked.
It's not in his DNA. He cannot fly outside the energy line. So he's going to have to follow the energy line. And it's not in his DNA to push down and push down and push down just for a few seconds. He's enjoying himself.
Yes.
He's having a really good time.
Gilles, you have the altitude, go to the blue. No, I don't want. It's pretty line here, so I keep on going until the end. And I think it's worth. He can go on cruising straight because the altitude, the more altitude he has, it's enough to compensate the deviation. Almost 90 degrees he'll have to the point of La Molina, Montlouis.
And John's still with Louis there, but we would imagine that Thilo and Sebastian will be the ones who will drive this group along. And Max is quite he can really push it when he wants to, and he's been passed twice on the final glide in this competition, and I don't think he enjoys that too much.
Yes.
And I think he'll try to get his own back. He'll try to pass these guys if he can.
Yes, very nice to see this image. Thank you very much, Benjamin. They are following the ridge, making some dolphin movements, dolphin flying. And here will be the second position. Very, very nice. They are cruising at 200 kilometers, so they are on final glide, Brian.
Oh yeah, they are.
Here's the second position.
Their issue on the final glide now is simply speed. It's a question of who can fly the most efficiently to finish a few seconds, because it's position. Thilo doesn't need to push. Doesn't need to push. He could slow down, sit back and say, okay, that's it. But why would he push? Well, because it's in his DNA. That's what he wants to do.
Okay, here they're passing the Tour de Carol Valley. It's very interesting, very nice village, and also very curious because they are both connected with Barcelona, and from here you can take a direct train to Paris. So you're staying here, you go to sleep at 10 in the night, and you say hello, good morning, have a breakfast in Paris at 6 in the morning.
Providing you remember to change trains in Toulouse.
I think there's a direct one. Someone told me some days before. Huh?
Yeah, right over the railway now and the road that runs up from through France into the Puy-Moron tunnel. Ooh, where's Max going? He's decided that there's a slightly better route, more to one side. I think they're all about the same height. We could probably put altitude on the labels. Now we know who they are, and we can see. Yeah, Max actually same height, but he's going a little bit more out to the edge. He's going more on track.
I think they are spreading it up, but the thing is, Max and I think it's Louis and Gatfield, they are going straight ahead to the point. Meanwhile, the other one and following the energy lines, as Gilles did some 1 or 2 minutes before. I think Gilles is.
John's got a tiny advantage in altitude, but with his glider, I don't think he's got the advantage with the high-speed run, and I think he's going to find that it's really, really tough. trying to get past the two JS3, three JS3s and a Ventus 3. He's going to find it tough to pass that.
Yes, there's a group of think it will be quite an interesting finish between these 5 pilots.
And Alpha X-Ray is coming into the turn now, I think. He's just about there.
We must remember from the last waypoint, which is La Molina, situated in Montlouis city. There are only 25 kilometers left to La Cerdanya. Today we don't have the Puigcerdà point because it's in the straight line. And here it is. Here he is, Gilles Navas, cruising at 200 kilometers, passing Montlouis zone and arriving to La Molina waypoint.
And if we just reel back for a moment or two, Gilles got away when he took the climb to go into that turning point. And then he continued to open the gap up when he went straight back to the lorry and climbed up and then straight onto Maniga.
Yes.
And so each one of those 3 little decisions gave him this lead.
And I think he's at the lead because, as you said, he climbed. He climbed once, twice, and 3 times. Okay, so many pilots say, okay, I just got to climb, look for another. Said no, I got to climb step by step, and then he had clear route without any mountains.
But I think the important thing is he climbed in the right place. He went to the right place and he didn't take anything on the way there. He's going to be 200 meters over glide here. He's got a really fat glide. We want to see him keep his speed up. He needs to keep up in the 200s to make sure that they won't catch him. But I think he's probably got 5 or 6 kilometers lead now.
Yes, and Louis, Thilo and Sebastian turn right, joining Maximilian and John Gatfield. Very, very interesting race. It could be fantastic for our telescope friends if they are able to catch the real track of these 5 gliders.
And we ought to look and see if Alpha X-Ray is around the turn bench.
Okay, just 12 kilometers, that group from the Montlouis point. Meanwhile, Gilles Navas is taking the point at that moment. Remember, it's a radius of about 2 kilometers, and for sure he will be turning right now. He's doing in 5th point La Molina. And okay, he's heading west again to Cerdanya airfield. Now he has only 23 kilometers left of the task.
Yeah, he's going to roar home. He'll see the others running in, so he'll know they're there. But I can't be caught now. He can't be caught. He's not only got altitude, he's got speed. And he should be running at 220, 230 kilometers an hour for the rest of the flight. And these guys running in, they're all going to go for the place. They're all going to see who... Thilo's really sensible now, which I'm not sure he's going to be that sensible because he's going to want to show his Ventus 3 off. But if he's sensible, he'll just slow down a tiny bit and just watch these guys fight it out and wait to see if he's in a good position right at the end.
And take a look, that's how the last leg seems to be, and that circle is where the Montlouis point is, where the gliders are, and in the middle of the valley you can see a clearly cloud straight line, Brian.
Yeah,
so they will run a lot.
They will run all the way back underneath that. They've got energy all the way. It's such a contrast to the southern turning point of Beaumont,
yes,
where everybody was really struggling and having a hard time. Now they're fat and they're really, really motoring along at 200 kilometers an hour. Yet Thilo looks like he's decided, okay, you guys fight it out for 2nd and 3rd place. I'm comfortable here. I don't need to be on the podium end of the day. I need to be on the podium for the whole thing. Yeah, and he's in a very good position if he can just hold that now. Gilles on his way home. We'll catch him in a moment or two as he comes back. He's going to be really pleased with himself on this flight. He's been really happy all week and really having a good time. And what a nice end to the week for Gilles. I know Gilles very well because Gilles and I flew together in the 87 World Championships in Benalla.
Yes.
And we were both much younger then.
Yes. And the group just saw Gilles Navas passing through the ride. They know he will win the race. And apart from it, there is not strong wind like yesterday, and you could see just a few seconds before the line in the middle of the valley. I don't know if they will deviate or not. I don't think so. Just if it's in the.
I don't think they need to. They've got the altitude to come home. They've got 25 kilometers to go from the turn, and they've got they need 1,300 meters, got 700 meters.
Yes.
And at this sort of speed, yeah, you know, they can't go really fast, but they can continue to fly at 200 kilometers an hour,
Okay.
210.
They are taking the 5th point, La Molina point. Just seemed like Sebastian took in the first position.
Yeah, for Sebastian, that was quite a long way into the turn.
Yes.
We've seen his brilliant technique at taking turning points where he actually seems just to touch it as he comes round. But anyway, he's still in the lead coming out. And the altitude difference now, there's almost no altitude difference. In fact, John's slightly higher.
Yes.
Fox Mike isn't going to catch him. He's the same altitude. Louis, he might just have enough altitude to close up a bit. Thilo's decided, I'm just going to enjoy the view. He's probably taking pictures.
Yes.
He's probably got his camera out and he's taking pictures of everybody saying, come on guys, you're going to watch the fun here.
Yes, the thing is John Gatfield is the highest one of this group, but he's flying as ES-29, who already had this glider, had already a couple of years. The thing is, with them they were Charlie Crystal Import and Bravo Sierra Pit Temple. They got stuck just about 2 kilometers before. I think they are not in this fight. We will see if higher altitude for John, he will take profit of it. Interesting.
And I just want to say one thing. In last 2 Grand Prix, we've had Sean Lapworth here. And we're really sorry that Sean couldn't be here with us this week. We've really missed him, and I'm sure you've all missed him, and his dry humour and his great commentating. You never know, maybe by the next Grand Prix final, Sean will be back with us again. But we hope he's in good shape and having a good time. And we look forward to hearing from anybody about Sean and what they've missed about his great commentary from the last 2 Grand Prix.
Yes, now this group is getting into 2. Sebastian and Maximilian to the left of your screen, which is the southern one. Meanwhile, Louis Lake and Thilo to the right. John is in the middle, and Sebastian was pushing a little bit more. It's only 500 meters between both of them. At this moment, remember, Thilo would win the whole race. We will see. And I think John is pushing a little bit more. Remember, it has about 50 more meters. We will see.
And I think Gilles must be just about finishing. We should just check up and see him through the line to complete his flight. It's his moment of glory in this competition. With the Alpha X-ray, is he crossed yet, Benj, or are we just coming up to it? Oh, he's still got a little way to run, but we can see Gilles now, 230 kilometers an hour, 300 meters above the minimum, and 6 kilometers to go. That's comfortable. We'll go back to the other guys and then come back and just see Gilles through the line just to make sure he's comfortably home. Well, Louis pulled in front of Sebastian now. Yeah, Louis had a little bit of extra height. He got past the other day on the final glide and he didn't like it very much. Max is just sitting out to the side with John. If they're sitting side by side like this, it's interesting to see if somebody can get a little bit more energy. Max and Sebastian, well, Sebastian's got the altitude advantage here, and it's not much in it. It's very, very close. This isn't really so much for the points as for the honour. It's the honour of passing in front of the other guys that really counts here. The points are really important, but nobody likes to be passed. Thilo's closing right up to Sebastian. That's proper pressure. He's just sitting there saying, okay, Sebastian, I don't mind you beating me today because I'm going to stick with you and I'm going to be really close. Gilles running in now. You can see the airfield in front of him. And we have an excellent finish from Gilles Navas from France. Still well above the minimum height and still going fast. We've seen really slow finishes on previous days. And we're going to see Gilles being a very happy guy as he comes through that finish line. And we can look at the images from the telescope maybe. And thanks. And then with that image, you can just see the Gilles finishing. I think maybe you can pick him out there. Jamais. No, okay, we'll go back to the race. Gilles just finishing now, and he's just coming through the line. Gilles Navas first on the 6th race day, and for second and third place, who's it going to be? Is Louis going to hold it? Is he going to be able to hold in front? We check the distance between them now. Thilo's pushing on Sebastian. He's driving him hard. He's getting really close there.
John has passed already Maximilian, and Louis is at the lead at this moment.
Yeah, they're pretty close. Yeah, there's not much in it. There's only a couple of wingspans there between them. They'll separate out a little to see if the air's a bit better. Louis might just be marking a slightly better run with the air, and Thilo could benefit from that. Sebastian looks like he's going to come right into it. John's coming right into it. They have 100 meters of altitude above the minimum and 4.8 kilometers to go. Now, is Thilo going to try and pass Louis? That would be adding...
That's the question.
Yeah, that would be really something if he pushed past Louis as well.
They are 4 kilometers from the finish line, but the distance is reducing quite fast.
I know what's going through Thilo's mind. I might not need to do this, but the Ventus 3 is good enough.
Yes.
Maybe that's what he's thinking. And maybe he's thinking, what a better opportunity to show people what a great glider I fly. Because he really doesn't need to do this. He's about to become the World Sailplane Grand Prix champion for the 9th series of World Sailplane Grand Prix. And he's still trying to close the gap, and he's still trying to get those extra points. But most important, it's his pride, I think. He just wants to be there in front. You can see he's just coming on now to Louis. They've got 2 kilometers to run. Sebastian's also accelerated a little bit. Everybody's slowing down. Thilo says Thilo's 1298, but of course his actual pressure altitude might be more than that. Sebastian's now taken Thilo. It's what a real cat and mouse game here. Sebastian slowed down a little bit and gained the altitude. Now he's pushed it forward. He's 1,300 meters. Thilo says 1290, but his pressure altitude is probably a little bit more. He's slowing down, 130 kilometers an hour. Sebastian's slowing down. They're just running on the top of the minimum. What's going to happen? There are 20 meters between them, 21 meters. It looks like Sebastian's going to get it. It looks like Sebastian's just going to creep in front. 100 kilometers an hour, 120. Yep, they're through. And Sebastian just took it off Thilo for that point through the finish line. But it makes no difference to the overall result.
Yes. And the 4th position is John Gatfield, and 5th is
Louis. And there's John coming through 4th and Louis coming through 5th. Well, there'll be some penalties to apply, I'm sure, today, so that'll make a difference. But at the moment, in the finishing lineup, John will be the 4th and Louis the 5th, and Maximilian is going to come in the 6th on this first part of the race. So maybe, Jaume, we can see where the next bunch of guys are, and you can talk us through that.
Yes. Next group is coming. We saw Christoph Limpert, Charlie, and here he is, and Bravo Sierra, which is Pete Temple. Maybe friends of the telescope could put them in real image. Thank you very much. And after him, there is coming 120, which is Mike Young. Mike Young recovered. He was lowered. We must remember he couldn't pass the Laura Bassa Mountains. And Pete Temple is after Christoph Limpert. We can see him. He's had a lot of altitude. He's running very fast. And I think he will be 7th, something like that. And after him is Mike Young. And the next one is, we left many time ago, Alpha Tango. He was at the rear group. Lucas Watwick flying Ventus 3. And after them are Ginta Zube, Alfa Romeo, and India Gold Charlie, which is Eugen Slovin. Okay. Here we got them passing Tour de Carol Valley. And well, I think just after Pete Temple arrives, there's a lot of distance left. He's arriving, and we'll leave the image of the silent wings in your screen, and we will stop our speaking here. We want to thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Angel, for your fantastic work.
Thank you so much.
And thank you everybody here helping, Benjamin, fantastic work. Gerard, Claire, Sandra, Mikel, and of course Brian Sprickley. Thank you everybody. It's been a pleasure to be with you all the championship. We expect to see you again in the next Grand Prix. We must remember next year we'll have a preliminary Grand Prix here in La Cerdanya, just but in 15 meters clouds. So goodbye everybody and see you in next Grand Prix. See you, bye.